RootsOfTheSwampThing.com, your definitive online source for all things Swamp Thing. Holland Files number 2 is out, Garrett. How is it?
Holland File 2 was awesome. A lot of cool images that you haven't got to see in Holland Files number 1, so definitely looking forward to finishing this bad boy.
And that's not the only thing. If you want to learn more about Swamp Thing, Alex, where would you go?
You're going to go to RootsOfTheSwampThing.com.
Make sure to stay in touch at RootsOfTheSwampThing.com on Twitter, at DCWorldSwampy, Facebook.com/RootsOfTheSwampThing. Welcome to Wednesday Comics.
Brought to you by RootsOfTheSwampThing.com and Siouxpercon 2018 Return of the Con.
Hey everyone, keep turning those pages.
Welcome to Wednesday Comics. To my right, we have Thor Odinson himself. Alex, how you doing?
Hello everyone.
And across from me, we have Tony Stark, Iron Man.
I am Tony Stark.
Garrett, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
And I am your Steve Rogers, Captain America. We're in an Avengers mood. Avengers number 1 review coming up a little bit later.
Did you know that your shield has a cover?
I know I can throw it.
You know, we should have had some beers and some other things to drink while we were doing the show.
You guys said, I'll have another.
Then I'll just throw it on the floor.
Let's get into some comic reviews. Speaking of which, I let you know on Free Comic Day on our special report that this book came out. It was 25 cents. You throw a quarter down, probably a penny, pay some tax, and you get a DC Nation number 0. This is there a little... oh, here we go. 3 stories, one from Batman in Your Big Day. This is Tom King, Clayman, Jordi Belair. We also have Superman in Office Space. This is Brian Michael Bendis, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and Alex Sinclair on colors. The Justice League and No Justice Prelude. Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, and Joshua Williamson writing. Jorge Jimenez on art, and colors by Alejandro Sanchez. First story in here is Batman. That's more of a Joker story. Joker is waiting at some guy's house for an invitation to Bruce and Selina's wedding. And can't really, I mean, in terms of story, not much happens. But it is Joker waiting.
It's terrifying as fuck.
It is probably one of the scariest Joker stories I've ever read. The creepiest, at least.
Yeah. You know what? I like Tom King, great writing, but Clayman, the ability of that man to change his art style the way he does, amazing. Like, hats off to you.
Even
like,
Jordi Belair, the colors.
Yeah.
Is like,
I was like scared.
Yeah, I was too. There's a couple of times.
Out.
So you get this Joker. First off, let me see if you guys thought the same thing, because this is what I thought. I was reading it, and the first panel is him looking through the mail slot, saying that he's waiting for his invitation. He's waiting for the mailman. And for me, I thought like the guy was inside, and Joker was like peeking in, being like, "Hey, let me in." And then it pulls back, and he's actually in the house looking out. And that kind of, for me, like dropped my stomach to be like, "Oh, he's already in the house."
Yeah.
And then it cuts to he's holding the guy hostage. The guy's sitting in a chair. And the guy's like, "Please don't kill me. I have a daughter." And he starts telling Joker all about his daughter. He thinks for some reason that that Joker's going to sympathize with him and be a human for a second and be like, "Oh, you have a daughter? I'm sorry." Like, so he's telling her she likes this kind of stuff. She's like, he's talking to her about what she likes. And Joker's just interested. He's like, "There's an invitation coming today. I need to be here. Batman is sending his wedding invite to my house." And the guy's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Batman's getting married? And why would he send an invitation here?" He goes, "I don't know Batman." And he's like, "He's sending one here." So the whole issue we get is Joker waiting for this. He tells some jokes to the guy. The guy never laughs.
The guy's getting like...
He's so nervous.
He's getting so nervous by the second. Yeah.
Joker tells one joke, and the guy doesn't laugh, but he stares at him and be like, "Huh?" And that's there is... I'm pretty sure I fell asleep, and I had a nightmare about it. But that stare is probably the most terrifying... I would say it's at least top 5.
Just thinking about it now, I'm getting goosebumps.
Top 5 panels of Joker ever. Like, you can hang that up and be like, or you could show up to him and be like, "This is Joker." Like, the way he's staring at that picture is him being jokey, like the jokey Joker who likes telling jokes, but also terrifying. Because you don't know if he's going to let this guy go or not. He said, "Hey, if the invitation comes, I'll let you go."
Well, he tells him that I only kill people when I'm upset. And like, okay, well, as long as this invitation shows, then there's not going to be a problem. well, we all know Joker far too well, to yes.
God.
That is I read this and I'm just going, God, Joker may be actually the scariest villain ever.
So you don't know what he's going to do.
'Cause that's the thing. It's like, he's already in your house, and the hostage actually gets Joker's gun, then shoots him, and out comes the little flight that goes bang. Like, oh, frick. This was scary. I really enjoyed this because it actually gave me that fear factor of going, holy shit, what's going to happen?
I think I'm not sure if you guys agree. At least for me, I think this is the first time I got a Joker that was like super terrifying on a level where I'm like, I don't ever want to meet this guy. But also, like the jokey kind of Joker that we see in the Batman animated series, we know that
very Mark Hamill-ish
yeah,
Joker.
He's very like a Joker.
Yeah,
but he's also like scary because, like Alex said, you don't know what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
This you saying that he's already in the house. This kind of remind me of The Strangers, where the girl, who's the actress, Liv Tyler, is sitting there and she goes, "Why are you doing this? Because you're home." That's what this made me feel like. If this guy wasn't home, this wouldn't be a problem.
Well, you can see the letter at the end. It's not even a wedding invite. It's just like
so he gets
city notice.
He has his daughter. The way I read it is that Joker has his daughter.
Well, she does say
because she's been gone for 6 days.
Yeah, she hasn't. So he could have been there for 6 days waiting for me. That doesn't make sense.
No. Not that he was there waiting for it. Is that he's already.
Oh no! It says if
daughter.
she's late 6 days in a row. It's not saying she's been gone for 6 days.
Well, I understood it as
it says if she is late for 6 days in a semester, you may be required to meet with the school official to discuss our tardy policy.
Well, why would you send it to her unless she'd already been gone for 6 days?
It says she's been late for school on Monday, but maybe.
And the day that it got sent was the 28th. Was 6 days later.
Oh, maybe I'm not sure what that means. I do know. I did feel the same way that you did. Like he did something to her, and that's why she didn't show up. And maybe that's how, like, he figured out that's the house I'm going to go to. But you know what? Actually, I'm not sure what serial killer it is. But the same thing you were talking about, like, in that movie, like, why you're doing this, you were home. There's a serial killer that the way he justified killing people was he would go up to their doorknobs and try to open the door. And if it was locked, he'd be like, okay, well, I forgot if it was like a demon or God. But he God doesn't want me to kill this guy. So you go to the next house. And if he found a door that was open, he'd be like, this is the person that they want me to kill. And he would go in and kill them. But it's the same thing, though. Like, he's trying to find somebody to be... It's not even about, like, this guy. And that's the thing that makes Joker scary, and that makes kind of killers like him scary, is that it's not about this guy. So you're not going to be able to talk him out of it because he doesn't care about you. He cares about...
The punchline.
The punchline, which at the end, like Garrett said, a letter comes and he goes, oh, the invitation's here. He goes, I can't believe it. I was invited. He's so excited he's going to be invited. And then he goes... So wait, it came here? You were right? You're not upset? The guy's telling Joker. Joker's like, upset? I'm going to the wedding of the year. It'll be me, the bride, the groom, all of us so happy. I'm so happy. And then he pulls out a gun and shoots him in the head. And he goes, and when I'm happy, I kill people. And the guy's bloody on the floor and blood goes over the letters. It was a letter about his daughter being tardy. So it wasn't like Garrett said, never to the invitation.
Right.
It's fucking crazy.
But yeah, he just like, this is my invitation. This is my end.
He never needed the invitation. He just wanted some sort of to like kill this guy.
There's an excuse.
There's no rhyme or reason why he's doing this at all. And that just makes him crazy. Like everything in this story is unpredictable. Like no letter actually came. He's telling jokes and you don't know like what's going to set him off because he says, hey, when I get angry, I kill people. But at the end, he tells the opposite. He's like, no, when I'm happy, I kill people. So essentially, he just kills people. Like he kills people no matter what.
So this is one of the three Jokers, correct?
Yeah.
Or is there only one?
There's three Jokers, but they haven't really.
We don't know about.
So I'm not sure.
Because the one in the white suit looks like the one from not Dark Knight Strikes Again. What's it? Dark Knight Returns.
Oh,
that's what he looks like to me.
Wow.
It's that Frank Miller-esque, but you're right. He looks like he's that mix of animated series.
Right.
So Jordy Blair's colors are great. Like the way she does the makeup on the face, I was just looking, kind of looks like it's like smudged off a little bit. Like it's not perfect, which is the kind of Joker that look. I mean, when you see this Joker, he looks like he's not human in a way. And I think that's what's most terrifying about him. Like the pupils are really dilated. So you're not sure. Like I think the thing that makes people most human are the eyes, right? And so it's almost like a shark, right? Sharks like are dead. Their eyes are basically look dead. They look like doll's eyes. And when you see Joker's eyes in this, you're like, I can't see anything behind that. There's no human behind that. And I think when he tells that joke and he stares at the guy, that's the most terrifying thing. He's just like, you can't tell what the fuck's going on. Like, you don't know what he's thinking or anything because it's all, the pupils aren't dilating. He's just still staring at you. And, it's like I said, it's like a shark. It's like, you're not seeing anything human there. So it's terrifying because you can't get a read out of him by what he says, by what he does, or by just even looking at the guy. And this whole story, tension throughout the whole thing, dialogue made me laugh, made me terrified, made me sad at the end when he kills the guy anyways. Because in a way, I put myself in this guy's position being like, yeah, if like somebody broke in my house and it was this fucking crazy, there's no way out. You're not going to survive this. There's no way talking your way out of this. And then the art's great. That this story for me was like probably one of the best Batman related, Joker related things I read in like the last 5 years. And once again, Tom King, I don't know, this guy's on a streak since like, what was it, like 20-ish? 20-ish with Batman. Now he figured out to quit trying to be other people's versions of Batman, like trying to live up to their expectations, but like, let me just tell some stories. And his Joker, if this is the Joker we see in this upcoming run, I am so excited for this upcoming arc.
Oh, God.
I want to see more of this Joker, and I'm excited to see Joker. Whereas, like, I think for a while, we were like, Joker again?
Yeah, I would agree. That Joker is one of those characters that when you see, you're almost excited. But in the Snyder run, I was almost like, really?
I know, because he's used so much.
Yeah.
But, like, this guy, I'm like, I'll see this guy again. Yeah, like, I'm so excited when he comes back.
He seems like a threat to the Batman. And he really does seem crazy enough to just do whatever he has to do to get Batman's attention.
You know why? Because in Snyder's run, I always felt like there was a little bit of a plan that he had, right? There's a lot of stuff that had to go right for him to do his plans. And whereas this guy just seems like he's living by the moment and not really sure what he's doing himself. And I think that's more terrifying for me in a way because it's like the difference between, getting into a fight with somebody who you're like, this guy's 100% saying we're just having an argument, we're fighting. Like, possibly you can get out of this, or possibly like when you both get beat up enough, you'd be like, okay, that's enough, we're out of here. Whereas like, I think it's saying, right, that like the strongest people are going to be someone who's crazy because he doesn't know when to stop. He doesn't even know what he's doing. So this guy here is crazy, Joker, and it's terrifying because there's no point when he's going to be like, you know what, I feel too hurt. I'm going to stop this. There's no point when he's going to be like, man, I feel bad for this guy. I think we're going to stop. There's never a point of that because he doesn't think that way. And I think with his upcoming run, he's so delusional that he's like, of course they're going to invite me to this wedding. It's in a way a stalkerish kind of Joker, the way he was kind of acting. And I think the real world elements, like we were talking about, like with the strangers and the serial killer, I can't think of his name. I think Tom King's like making him more like that, and I think that makes him terrifying because this is like a real life person that could exist, and with those dead eyes and everything about it, just for me, it's just like, God, it's so creepy.
I definitely want to prank you guys and put a picture of that on your pillow one night. Just be like, go to bed and see what happens.
The next story we get is Brian Michael Bendis' second Superman story with art by Jose Lopez Garcia. What was it again?
Yeah,
Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Alex, I'm Garrett. What happens in this story?
Well, basically, Perry White is establishing the new status quo on covering the news as far as it's concerned with Superman. And in general, storytelling is like, we're going to make sure we're telling the truth about everything. We're not going to be jaded. We're not going to take sides. But if something is going down, we're obviously going to report it. Like, that's our job. But he's kind of like saying, we don't want to waste our time fabricating. And then basically we kind of find some tidbits out about Clark and like how Lois and John are gone. Like, John doesn't even get mentioned once. Lois is just gone, and you can feel her absence. Like 100% you can feel her absence in that issue. And all I gotta say is, God, I don't feel good. Like, it makes me feel sick inside what's happening right now. Like, I mean, Bendis' run could be great, but from what and first off, I don't think Bendis' beginning of his run should have been 8 pages in one book and like 8 pages in another. Like, this is really choppy, and it's making me feel like when I was leaving, reading Action Comics 1000 and reading Superman 45, like, that's Superman to me. And, like, I get Bendis is going to come in and change some things, but, like, when I was reading that, I mean, you know how much I love Superman. It almost made me, like throw up. Like, not like, just kind of, I had heartache. I was like, I don't know. This is making me so scared that he's going to do something to this character. And kind of like, the New 52 run where it's like, it's not about Clark Kent being Superman. It's about just Superman.
This didn't feel like a Superman story.
Yeah.
Like the Batman, even though Batman's not even in the first part of this book, it felt like a Batman story. I read this, and even though Clark's in it, I'm just like, I'm not even interested in getting this book.
Well,
it gives me a bad taste of going.
It's too many previews. It's like a preview story. I want an actual, like what Clayman and Tom King did. That's an actual story in Jory Belair. It just seems like coming in Man of Steel at the end of the month. Like, I'm like,
you're right. I didn't even think about that, but like the Joker story is a complete story. There's a beginning and an end. And this, once again, just like the Action Comics 1000, is a scene.
Yeah.
And one was an action scene. This is a dialogue scene. And both of them, I think, like you just said, feel incomplete. Like, I'm reading one scene. I don't know anything going into this. And they really don't try to explain what's going on.
On purpose.
And when you leave it, it's also like, okay, there's not enough for me here to be like, I want to read more of this, like Alex was saying. But also, I'm 100% on board with what you're saying. I think Bendis, because before Clark shows up, and it's just Perry talking about newspapers and how they're going to they're not going to do editorials anymore. They're just going to do the news, go back to how newspapers used to be, report the news. That's all we're going to do. We're not going to try to slam people's views and try to make them fear anymore. We're going to just give them the Superman stories as they come in and let them know what is happening. All that I thought was good.
Yeah.
And when Clark gets in, it, for me, was not interesting anymore. It was actually kind of boring. And I just think that Bendis, and this actually feels like the beginning part was like, oh, this is Bendis I know and then the second part I was like, but this feels wrong. Like, it doesn't feel like he should be writing this person. Like, I feel like he wants to write a Daily Planet book,
right?
And that is it. I feel like you said, it's like the Superman that he's writing, because he even said, oh, there's a line in this book that does not feel like Clark at all. And when I read it, I was like, that he would never say that. And God, what is it? Let me find it here a second ago. I bet I guarantee you.
That feeling, just like right now talking about it, I get like a knot in my stomach. I'm like, this, all this hype with Bendis is coming. I'm expecting like, oh, Bendis is so great, and DC wants him to write this character so bad that they're going to give him the ropes to one of the best characters in DC and of the DC universe. And so far, it doesn't seem like he's honoring the legacy of Superman at all. I mean, again, I've only had 16 pages of content to judge this off of. It's
definitely the wrong way to show him off.
Right. This is like, I just feel, it's like watching a show for like 6 seasons, and then in the 7th season, like half the main characters leave the show.
Brian Michael Bendis writes so decompressed that even if you get a whole issue of him, sometimes you're like, I think I need more. And you need like 3 or 4 to be like, okay, I'm kind of into this. Because it takes so long. Like, for instance, in Ultimate Spider-Man, he once had a whole issue that was one scene that was Mary Jane and Peter talking on her bed. The whole issue. And that's how, it's one scene. And that issue is great because you've seen what happens before and you know what's going to happen next. Where you're enjoying what's going on, so you're excited to see what happens next. But that's the way Bendis is good. It's not good if you only saw 4 pages from that issue.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, what's this?
Man of Steel should have come out first, I think. I think instead of plugging in Action Comics, plugging it in this, it should have been a whole first issue. They're too excited for him to
start, and they want to be like, hey, here's the story by Bendis.
The plug-in in 1000 was fine. Like, I understand you're trying to get us hyped, so don't show us a whole lot of anything. Just like, hey, here's a fight scene to get you enticed. I get that. This one is your point. If you're going to keep slowly building it up, then start giving us something to go on.
But there was nothing cohesive about that story and this story. If there was one thread that went from that to this, I'd be like, okay, at least they're doing something.
Connected to each other?
They've connected, even if it was just like, remember when Superman got knocked the shit out on by the Daily Planet? That'd be one thing. But there's none of that.
In Action Comics, 1000, it should have been an interview from Bendis, why he wants to write Superman, and what he thinks about it, the legacy, all this stuff, like interview him, maybe show some preview art,
Yeah.
Like, that's all you needed from that book. But they instead chose to include like 4 pages of an action scene. And in this one, I just think you have him be like, hey, don't write anything that's going to be part of your story. Write just a Superman 5-6 pages.
Yeah.
Write a 5-6 page Superman story. Like, why have him, like you said, have stuff that's going to be continued in Man of Steel? Like, yes, I understand all this is like to be continued in Batman and Justice League, but even Justice League, which we'll talk about in a second here, for me felt like, oh, this is contained. Like, I know I got enough here on Justice League to be like, okay, I'm going to get that book. In Batman, I'm ready to get it anyways, but that had a full story. And like I said, one of the best Batman Joker stories
you're
I read.
Excited for what's coming up. It's like
this again.
I don't even want to read Man of Steel because of what's going to happen. It's going to piss me off.
Action Comics, I was like, well, it's an action scene. Don't judge it by the action scene. He writes better dialogue, so they give me a dialogue scene. I'm like, well, if it's going to be all dialogue and I don't know what's going on, like the context makes it important. Yeah. It's not just people talking. And once again, there's a line here that I don't think Clark would ever say, and I want to see if Garrett and Alex agree here. When Perry's like, hey, Clark, can I have a word? And then this is all narration from Clark. Every time Perry gets worked up like this, I can't help it. I worry. I check his blood pressure and heart, and every time, solid as a rock. This is just him. And he goes, humans are amazing.
Yeah, that was...
But Clark thinks himself as a human.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be different. So why would he ever say, man, humans are amazing? I don't think I've ever heard him refer to as everybody else as humans. He refers to everybody else as like, this is why I love this planet.
Right.
And why
I love these people.
But he considers himself, I mean, he likes his Kryptonian history, but the reason why he is Superman and the reason why he stays on that planet, what makes Superman great is that he sees himself as one of them.
Which I feel like, knowing that, and I was kind of like thinking of it in the back of my mind, I feel like whatever this change is in his origin, it's going to make him seem like keep the Kryptonian side separate from the
You think that's what it is? Is that he's
something like that?
Gonna not want to be
like you said, he could have been sent to to rule that, and that was always going to be Jor-El's teachings to him, even though he is the last survivor of Krypton, and he never landed on Ma and Pa Kent's farm. God, this is just
there's something about that line that for me at least feels, and I've been reading Superman for not the longest time. But you've read a lot of Superman.
Well, yeah,
I've read him feeling like he's like humans are amazing. Like that's something Zod says.
Yeah.
Zod says something like refers to them as humans. I've never heard Clark refer to them as humans.
I think it'd be different if he even called them just people.
Where
he's embracing
people are amazing.
Yeah,
like,
if that would make humans. He thinks he's, if nothing else, it sounds like he thinks he's better than humans themselves. He goes, humans are amazing.
Or even if he was like, this planet's amazing, that's why I love it here, or something like that. To be like, this is why I stay here.
Yeah.
But in the way he's saying it is kind of like, I'm not one of them. Humans are amazing. He's not including himself in that message.
Right.
So I read that and I was like, I've never seen him refer to. It's not even. In that part, he's making himself the alien, and he's never wanted to feel like an alien. That's his whole thing. Is that he always wanted to be like everybody else. He never wanted to be an alien, and in that statement alone, he's saying they're different.
Well, what was the was it Max Landis who did that book, as American Alien?
Yeah.
That's one of those books where the whole time he's just trying to be.
Yeah, he's trying to be a
human.
Guy. He's trying to be a teenager, trying to be a kid, trying to be an adult. Like
has sex with Cheetah on the boat for Bruce Wayne.
Literally,
pretend to be Bruce.
the whole point of that miniseries is that he loves being among these people because he wants to be them. Like he sees the good in these people, and he's inspired by them, and that's the reason why he's like, man, I love them so much. Like I want to be here because I want to. Like I wish I was them. And he understands. It's not that he's delusional and he doesn't understand he's alien. He understands that, but I've never seen him be like, he's never referred to them as different. He's always like, oh yeah, I love people. Yeah. And I think even in that Action Comics special, that one by Brad Meltzer, when he saved the lady, he even says these people inspire me. He doesn't say, man, humans inspire me. Like what the fuck are you talking about? God.
See, this is scaring me. This is not good. This is not good. What I'm feeling out these.
The art was okay, by the way. Art and color. It wasn't the best. But
I just told these guys.
I didn't care for it.
The old shoulder pad cape. No, we don't do that.
It was definitely like an older style.
Yeah,
but it wasn't horrible. It was
the only good thing. Kept that fucking yellow Lusky.
Garrett, would you ever draw Superman?
No.
Even if Man of Steel is garbage, Bendis writes him horribly. Would you drop that book? Or would you stick on for the fact that you love the character so much?
I would stick on for the fact that I love that character so much. And that I would literally, if enough bad things happened, every issue that come out that a bad thing happened, I'd be sending a letter to DC Comics. I would send an email and be like, do you not understand this character? Like, how could you do this? Like, I don't know. From what I'm getting right now, I'm starting to get paranoid and freak out because I'm like, this is not what I want right now. Like, and especially in a time like this, like, just think of like modern life. Do we need a Superman that's like alienistic and based on fear instead of hope? Like,
he literally says,
yeah.
Perry goes, we're not going to be teaching people to fear things anymore. And then you have a Superman that is not.
And he's afraid. He's afraid of Perry getting a heart attack. Like, it's like, dude.
But it'd be different if he was just, being a concerned friend. But the way it sounds like, this guy's not going to die anytime soon.
And the 2-page of this new Miss Robinson or whatever, Robinson Good or whatever, I was like, I don't care.
That was fine.
If she was talking to Lex Luthor, I'd be like, oh, damn. She's talking to some goon.
That was fine. But also, like, once she got brought up, I was like, of course, Bendis made a new character to show up in this. And, like, he always makes a new character. So, it's also disconcerting to me that people are going to read Superman for the first time because, like, oh, Brian Michael Bendis is writing Superman. And they'll try to check it out and be like, oh, I don't like this character.
Yeah.
And be like, no, this is that. At least from these two previews, like you said. Like, I don't know if this is how he's going to write him long term. And maybe also, like, Tom King, he doesn't know how to write him yet. But then again, the two things but at least Tom King, I thought they were interesting ideas. We just thought the execution, but I thought it was okay. But I remember you two saying the execution was not the best. Like, Bruce felt off. And, but I think we all agree, like, it wasn't bad.
It wasn't this bad.
No, it wasn't like, man, what are they doing to Batman? It was just like, hey, it's not really what I think of Batman. Where this is like, this is not even Superman. Close to the character. If that Batman before was like, hey, this is a different take on Batman, this Superman's like, this is a different character.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who this is. And also, once again, I told these guys before we started, there's a panel where Clark starts to trip on a chair and then they never address it. So I don't know what's up with that. I don't know why that's in there. But Justice League was the next story by James Tynion IV, Joshua Williamson, and Scott Snyder, and art by Jorge Jimenez. The art, coloring, fantastic. Yes. Alejandro Lopez, I think, did the colors. Nope, Alejandro Sanchez did the colors. Looks so good. I could not ask for a better looking Justice League book, panel wise and how the characters look. I
had one gripe. They all ran weird and it bugged me. In one panel, everything else was fine.
Which team?
It was Batman's team.
Oh.
But
they're all running like a Mario character, and it just bugs the crap out of me.
This?
Not that page.
Oh, okay. Anyways, I thought that
pink background.
This is so dumb. You noticed that? I thought for this being basically the whole thing's an action thing with introducing the teams, and then we go cut back to Earth with Supergirl and who else?
Green Arrow.
Protecting Earth while these guys are fighting these battles in space. And then we see the big bad at the end. It's kind of like Celestials, but DC's version. What are they called?
Shit.
I don't think they even say it, though. Maybe they don't.
No, they called them something. Because there's 4 energies that they're all using. That's why there's wisdom and power and
entropy and mystery.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they don't name it, actually.
So I think they're called energies.
But there's 4 gods, basically, show up at Earth, and all people there are Supergirl and Green Arrow. Everybody else is off fighting other things. But for this just being like an action scene introducing you to these teams and having little character moments, being like who they are, and then you're out, was enough for me to be like, this seems fun enough for me to be like, I'm going to be into this. The art, I think the art does help a lot because I was like, this art is really, it's great for the action. But you're going to
transition from this to Maniple, so I think it's going to be okay for the No Justice parts at least.
Yeah, it's Manipool and Jorge Jimenez, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's like you can't go wrong. 2 great artists.
Yeah.
Scott, at least, I guess I'm not sure who's writing here. James Tynion and Scott are writing Justice League. So you're not going to, and Joshua Williamson is helping out with the No Justice thing. So you'll have this during that, and then when it goes on to just Justice League, you'll have Scott and James Tynion IV doing writing. So I think this is a good representation of what we're going to get, and I actually did enjoy this a lot. I actually thought I was going to hate this one the most out of all of them.
Yeah.
And turns out I was like, no, actually
it's really good.
It's not great in the level that Batman story is, because that Batman story, like, well, that should get him like award, like short story Eisner Award, like give him everything, give him a Harvey. And that Justice League though was like, that's fun. Like that's what that book should be. I know you guys, we've been having some disagreements. I haven't caught up yet, so I'm not sure. Justice League and Christopher Priest trying to make it like very political. And before that, we have Brian Hitch, which tried to make it this kind of like high level action, but was always missing the character moments.
Couldn't execute.
And I think this is the perfect mix of both of them. We have high action, but also it's not super like dumb. It doesn't feel dumb, at least. It feels like a big blockbuster movie, which this should be. So
I think my only thing for me is that I never see, and I know that's happened, that the Justice League fight space aliens. And like when Batman stands up, he's talking about being in space. And it's like, that just doesn't feel like the Justice League thing. I don't know. It didn't seem like I liked it. It was fine. It wasn't nearly as good as the Batman, but was 12 times better than the Superman.
Yeah.
Like I think the art will be great. The art was great in this, and it makes me more excited for the No Justice stuff.
I like something new. It's something fresh.
I like the teams,
and they explain because it did happen in Justice League that they broke the source wall. I know, sorry, spoilers, Marvin, but they broke the source wall. And so like this is all the what's happened beyond that. Once you break that source wall, that used to be like a barrier between basically all of us and outside of that source wall, which clearly has some godlike entities.
Oh, I see. The source wall was a barrier that was protecting us from other things.
Right. That's like the furthest point in space, and that broke. So once that breaks, what's beyond that?
You invite
and that's
other
where
things.
New stories come in.
I did like the even.
So that entices me though.
Yeah.
Is that they're fighting something huge.
They even mentioned in the comic they're like, "There's no rhyme or reason for why these teams are these teams. We're just going out there and trying to stop this." I did like the pairing of the teams though. Like, they were a nice mix of being like, yeah, it makes no sense, but like it's cool having on a team Deathstroke and I just looked at it.
Lobo, Batman,
Beast Boy. Oh, that's what it was. Beast Boy and like Deathstroke. Like I thought that was cool. And then we have teams like Wonder Woman, Etrigan, Raven, Dr. Fate, Zatanna. Then another team, Adam, Cyborg, Robin, and Harley Quinn, and The Flash. And then on Earth, like I said, Supergirl and Green Arrow. Like it doesn't make sense, but if you've ever seen like Justice League Unlimited, where they had everybody and they also had random teams, it kind of feels like that. And I think actually I do enjoy that because you can have a Green Arrow and Supergirl and be like, and that part doesn't feel like, oh, okay, now it's just some random like C level characters. It's like, no, they're part of this whole Justice League.
I think my only question would be, and I realize all bad guys are just anti-villain or anti-heroes, is that the Batman's team has Deathstroke, who's a proven villain, even though I know he's been helping out in Justice League. Lex Luthor, I guess, has turned a page to be used to be a dick, and now he's just like, I'm a good guy, but I'm still a dick.
I haven't read that action comic especially yet.
But I realize that these characters can be good. It just seemed weird that all of Bruce's teammates, other than Beast Boy,
but maybe that's why they're on there, because they know Bruce will keep him in check.
Right. Bruce will beat the shit out of everybody.
But I think when it's because it's like basically a universe-ending situation where they're like,
you put your things aside,
yeah, we'll help you
team up. Okay.
It's like everybody, even like I guess Harley's kind of an anti-hero now too. It's like, yeah, we'll help you out.
It's just one of those. I mean, I'm not trying to be nitpicky. It's just something I noticed that's like, oh, Bruce has all these bad guys. Cyborg's team was like the young kids. It's almost like a Teen Titans-esque.
Can I say something to you?
Yeah.
And it's not to be like, Alex, you're reading this wrong. But I believe in order to enjoy this book, that logical part of your brain, you gotta like take it out for a second. Because they're funny fucking celestial gods. I don't think you're gonna be like, well, does it really make sense? Hold up a second. This guy's got an axe.
But I'm not saying that it has to make sense. I'm just pointing out there's bad guys on this team. And that bugs me. Is that
I know, but they're coming together as a whole to protect Earth. Like it's like basically if you have a territory and there's something that is an outside threat that you can't handle it on your own and you need outside help to keep your territory what it is, you'll get that help. Make sure your territory is safe. Then go back to fucking with everybody else.
Then there's
What's
no
the
place.
Point?
There's no.
If Earth gets destroyed, there's no reason to fight.
At least that's why I read it. It's like you could hate your neighbor, but if for some reason, like in Red Dawn, if the Russians are invading, you're all Americans then. So like if somebody's coming to destroy Earth, you're all Earthlings then, and you're going to stop them. So
not according to Superman.
Well, in this one, he was okay with it. So. Overall, I give this a 9. Those two were enough, the Batman and Justice League, to lift up what I thought was like a 6 or 7 Superman story. 6 probably.
Batman was a 10. The Superman was a 4. And I give an 8 to the Justice League.
As a whole, I give this an 8. The Superman really did pull it down for me because it's scaring the shit out of me not as much as that Joker face. Joker, 10. Whoa, 4, maybe even less, 3 maybe, and then good to 8.
Alex, what else we get? That one took a while.
That was a
Yeah,
lot
so
of work.
that was like a.
We might have to skip that last book.
Well, we can just skip this
Yeah.
one that you haven't read then.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
That's
Well, that was
Okay,
the one I was going to do.
I thought that was the last one. Just do
No, that was the one I was gonna
Yeah, we'll
do.
skip that.
Earth's Mightiest Heroes, The Avengers, #1, written by Jason Aaron and art by Ed McGuinness. I liked this book. I was telling Marvin, I think you even read it too. The Ed McGuinness art is good, but there's something. I think it's cartoonier than I was expecting it.
I don't know. I like his style. I
Actually,
really
the
enjoy it.
coloring makes it. I said on the forecast I really don't enjoy his art, but the coloring made it actually okay. It doesn't look so shiny because in Batman, Superman, Batman, that color makes them really shiny. But I think it is the blockiness of their faces that for me is like everybody kind of looks the same.
This front picture, all the men have square jaws,
Yeah, I think
and
that's-
so does She-Hulk.
Yeah, that's the part for me. And it's not even that it looks bad; it's just like, it
You're
looks
mad because they have a
weird.
great jawline?
I think
They
part of
work
maybe,
out.
maybe I'm just jealous.
So, what do you think? This is Avengers. We have Thor, Captain America, and Tony Stark at the beginning, being like, "We're back together. We're back." First off, he says we're back together again. We have Hydra Cap. We have
Unworthy Thor.
and we have Coma.
Ghost.
Yeah, Coma, whatever. Tony.
Well,
Is that actually Hydra Cap or is that the Ghost Cap? That, like,
This would technically be Ghost
so
Cap.
why does he call him Hydra Cap? He's just saying.
no, because obviously never again are they going to address the fact that Cap is actually a fucking ghost, or that this is actually a ghost. They're going to say that this is him the whole fucking time because, let's just do it. So they're just saying they think that they're one and the same. Like, hey, you used to be Hydra Cap, you used to be in a coma, and you used to be an unworthy god. So they're like I said. Actually, Captain America is dead forever. He's not coming back.
He's locked in a jail and never
Yeah.
referred to him ever again.
Right.
So they have them, and then we'll see Celestials. Actually, Celestials. Captain Marvel sees one, and we think that it's reaching for her, but then we find out at the end that they're actually dying and falling through portals. They fall
And
to the earth.
falling to the earth. Yeah, that was cool, seeing all those Celestials falling. But the first thing I thought before I turned the page was like, holy shit, when they land on something, they're going to kill tons of people, and they're 2,000 feet long, which they made a constant point that they're that long. And then you see, like in London, went over the London Bridge and things like that. It was like, that's crazy.
And you have Black Panther and Doctor Strange going down to the center of the earth because they see. We saw in Marvel Legacy there's Avengers 10,000 BC. What was it?
Yep.
10 million BC. 10
Something
million.
like whatever. Long time ago.
Long time ago that they're, and in this one we see a little bit of them too. That they
It opens with them.
Yeah, it opens with them
the
fighting the
million
first
years
Celestials.
ago. Yeah.
And they had put something down there and put magic so it wouldn't get out. But in Doctor Strange, all magic went away. So they got out during that period, which actually I thought was a nice kind of like tie back continuity. And that was Jason Aaron's story, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was looking through this and I was like, okay, so he wrote Doctor Strange, Thor, and so you have a lot of those stories coming into this, which I actually think is nice. And then the rest of the people I don't think he's written before. At least he's written Ghost Rider before, but not this Ghost Rider. And so that got out, and then at the end, like I said, we saw Celestials falling, and then Tony's like, "Go ahead, Cap, say it," and he's like, "Avengers Assemble," but it's just the three of them at that point. They're not all together yet.
Whoa, dude.
Well, they ran
You
into
did not amp that up. How fucking
they
great this
they talked to
comic amped
Captain
that
Marvel
up.
because they ran into Captain Marvel. They're the ones who saw her falling through or the Celestial fall from the sky. You get what's Robbie's last name? Ghost
Reyes.
Rider.
Yes.
Reyes.
He's fixing his demon car, and some bugs start jamming through, attacking him. It's like, bitch.
Well, what Doctor
Welcome
Strange
to hell.
and T'Challa find is they find basically like aliens. They find pods or eggs
Oh
that
yeah, that's right.
are hatching,
Bug pods.
and they're empty. Except not all of them are empty.
Some are empty.
But you don't realize that the holes that were made that T'Challa was going through was made by those creatures coming out of the earth. And so those are the creatures that are attacking Ghost Rider right now. She-Hulk literally
Getting harassed by a guy.
has nothing to do with this comic whatsoever, besides the fact basically she's Jessica
yeah.
Cruz for the Marvel. I mean,
She's not trying to She-Hulk. Some guy tries to
Right.
hit on her.
yeah,
She tells him to go away. She's like, "Don't turn She-Hulk. Don't turn." That's all she does.
right. And so it's just to show that she's going to be part of the team, but otherwise has no point in being in this book. But, so I love the T'Challa Doctor Strange team. And then you get, Iron Man, Cap, and Thor. And they're saying that this whole book, like, well, you can't say the A word. Don't say Avengers. Are we really at that point? Like, Tony's like, God, I don't know if I want to do this again. Because, like, so much shit has happened. And I kind of like that. I was like, they're weighing the past, being like, did it really work? Like, look at all this shit that happened. And, like, Cap's sitting there and he's like, Tony, like, this is the only way it was ever going to work. It was always going to be this way. And so it was kind of like Cap and then Thor's just there like, hi, like, I completely agree. Like, there was nothing that could be done, but this is what we do. This is who we are. We're Avengers. And so the whole book, they're just like, like right away, Tony gets a threat level about these Celestials flying through the sky. And then, they get to the end and like shit's about to go down because they see the bad guy Celestial show up. And Tony's like, all right, Steve, I think we got to do this. And Thor's like, I'll follow you. I'll be right behind you. And then fucking next page, Cap says Avengers assemble. And I got fucking chills. I thought it was a great buildup. Come on. Like right behind him. Like, I'm turning this page. Got it. I just want a fucking poster of this. Sorry if I'm sounding like a bard. What does he say? Anything else you want to add before you do this, Captain America? Only one thing comes to mind, Iron Man. Then say it and let's get to work. And Thor says, I. And Cap says, all right. Avengers assemble. That's so fucking cool.
I really like it.
See, I didn't. This to me didn't need to happen until all the team was together.
Yeah, I didn't think it was
because it's just the three of them.
It wasn't
That's
really
not the point.
But
the payoff wasn't like there was no build up to the payoff, so it didn't really work for me.
They're avoiding being the Avengers the entire issue.
Yeah, by talking at a bar.
But the only one who actually
what do you mean? Okay,
they literally
think of their
just
entire
met.
past.
They literally just met again for the long. They've been away. He's been in a coma. The one guy's been unworthy. One guy's been
Hydra,
whatever, Hydra and dead. Whatever the fuck's going on with them. And they meet at a bar for the first time for a long time. And Tony is probably the worst I've ever seen him written. It was so bad. I hated him so much in this comic.
That's who he is. He's an arrogant
He's
ass.
never been that way.
Arrogant?
No. See, here's the thing. This is the reason why I did some research tonight. I don't remember Tony being this way before those movies. This jokey guy who tells horrible jokes every single time he's talking. And I went back and read Matt Fraction. I read an issue of Matt Fraction's run from back in the day. And I read, and he's not like that.
Was he more like a Reed Richards kind of?
He's more of, and I'll show you a picture because the artist drew him exactly that way. If you ever seen Lost Josh Holloway, Sawyer, he's like that kind of guy. Where he's not like joking and quippy. He's an asshole.
Right.
And so you get humor for him, like giving people nicknames, but it's like nicknames where he gets, like he calls somebody Freckles, right? And he's like, and it's like he's this kind of suave, kind of like ladies' man. And that's what you get the humor out of. It's not that he's telling these pop culture references, calling somebody Captain Neil. And it's like,
well, I guess for me, I've only read. Oh yeah, like exactly.
And by the way, guess who was Potter? Pepper Potts.
Jesus.
Cocaine.
But seriously, like when I've been reading Marvel comics, that's
what it
post Avengers.
But it's seriously since
right.
those movies came out, they just made him Robert Downey Jr.
Because I've read like the Ultimate Iron Man, he's not.
But the thing is,
this doesn't even seem like Robert Downey.
That's what I'm saying. The thing is that no writer can write the way Robert Downey Jr. talks.
Yeah,
and a lot of his dialogue is improv when Robert Downey Jr. does it, and so much so that like when we're watching Avengers, right? There's a lot of scenes in there which gets a laugh, like the Galactica scene. The guy's playing Galactica, and we were reading trivia during the movie. Like that was an improv line, and they're like, "That's good." So they put it into the movie, like the actual guy playing it, but it's all him thinking about it. Yeah. And I don't think any of these writers. Jason Aaron, I love Jason Aaron. The rest of it, actually, the rest of the dialogue's great, except for Tony. And when we read Nick Spencer in Civil War II, when he tried to write Tony, Bendis actually was okay. Not like it was okay. It wasn't great, but these people keep trying to write like as Robert Downey Jr. And even so much like there's at the beginning he goes, "There's a dialogue. Give me the book real quick." Like, he literally tries to get the cadence down of Robert Downey Jr. And this, like, it's like, why even try? Just write this character how he was before. Let's see here.
Like the only one that actually wanted to put the team together was Thor. Going, of course, it's going to be the three of us. That's how it has to be.
He even tries to get the cadence on how Rob Jr. talks. That I swear, like in my head, I'm seeing Jason Aaron like watching those movies and be like, okay, that's how he talks. Okay, like he kind of stammers and like says So there's a line here where he's like, okay, so wow, suddenly being clinically dead has a nice smoothing ring to it. Like the way he goes, okay, so wow. It's like, yeah, that's something like the way Rob Jr.
Improv
talks.
wise.
But why are you trying to make, like, people love that Rob Jr. character. I actually think he's great at that job, but he's great because he's himself. Like, that's his thing. I don't understand the reason why. It's mostly the pop culture references. Like, make him funny by being funny. Like, in the bones funny. Not being funny because he's trying to make these pop culture. He's not a kid who loves pop culture. He's not like, and even like a teenage Spider-Man. That makes sense. Because teenagers, that's what they're into. This guy literally is a tech genius. He has a own company. And you really think that like he's like keeping up with pop culture? I mean, some of the references are outdated, right? But I don't think that's the way he talks. And that's the way he never talked that way before.
Yeah.
So it bugs me, especially in this, it bugged me a lot. Because like every single line is a joke. There's no line where he's taking himself seriously or taking, and that's why at the end, that's the reason why it bugged me about the Avengers Assemble. He goes, "Go ahead, Captain." And it's just like, you can't, there's fucking Celestials falling from the sky and you just can't be serious for a moment.
I think this is marketed for people that just saw Infinity War, obviously.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm just saying,
I get you. I get you, though.
Character assassination of Tony Stark really bugs me because he never was that way before. And then now they kind of make Doctor Strange a little bit that way. When before he was never like that. He was like an asshole. And
he knew everything.
He was, yeah, like he knew everything.
Even Doctor Strange in this, I still need to read the Hickman run where he leaves for the longest time and sells part of his soul to get even more power. That's almost the Doctor Strange I want to read, is the one that really does know he's the most powerful. And so he's a dick to everybody.
Oh, this Doctor Strange was fine in here. But yeah, that's definitely like, but in Jason Aaron's run, I really don't like the Doctor Strange because he was always like, yeah, there's a cost. Like he was always scared. And that Doctor Strange that you were talking about here, he was never scared. He was always like, I'm going to do as much as I can to be the
Where's
best.
his red cape?
I don't know.
Yeah, that bothered me too. That he's in that blue outfit.
Yeah, I was like, what is that, your winter cape? Or?
Anyways, the rest of it I liked.
He's having a blue period.
But I could not get over Tony in this issue.
Really?
I will agree though. When I read it, I thought this doesn't sound right. It doesn't read well. All the other characters didn't bother me nearly much, but I guess I haven't read any of the past stuff. I'm with Garrett on this. I've only read the current Iron Man stuff. But it was good. I enjoyed parts of this book. I didn't care for the Tony Stark stuff. I don't care for the Avengers Assemble because I want the whole team there when he says it. Unless when he says it, everybody just gets teleported.
They're the three original. They're part of the original team. But I loved it. I give it a 9. I really enjoyed it, and I'm very excited for issue 2. I think there's like a new big bad that's exciting and fun.
Yeah.
What are you going to say?
I just found this. So the Captain and Tennille line made me cringe so much. But then there was a line that made this probably the worst line dialogue that I've read tonight in all the comic books. When he's like, "It's raining dead Celestials, Steve. I've seen everything there is to see and then some. And never once back down for a fight. But I tell you this. This makes me want to soil my iron undies." And I was like, will you shut the fuck up? It's so bad. It's so bad. It's not even funny.
When you said it like that, it was kind of funny, actually.
I read that and I was like, will somebody please kill this guy again? Put him in a coma. Jesus.
What do you guys rate it?
I give this a 7.
Yeah, 7. Mostly for everything else.
Next, we got Death or Glory #1, written by Rick Remender with art by Bengal.
I forgot all about that book.
So basically, this is a book about Glory Owen, who is trying to do. How do you explain this? It's all spoilers.
She needs to save her dad.
Yeah, she needs
her dad's got what? Liver
adoptive
cancer?
dad. Red.
Yeah.
Not her actual dad.
Well, she doesn't call him dad. She calls him Red, but he took care of her, so she's taking care of him. He's got liver cancer.
Not biological father. Gotta be careful with those lines. Anyways.
You know who wasn't? Pa Kent wasn't Superman's biological father, but we still call him father, don't we?
You're fucked.
You started it. So I just had to finish it.
True. But this is the start. This is an issue #1. So I just want to make sure. Whatever. So anyways, he has a failing. He has cancer. Or something. He has some
liver cancer.
Liver cancer. And so he needs a new liver, else he's going to die within a week. Which, that kind of excited me right away. I was like, hey, this is going to be a contained story, it seems like. Because, a week, you can't really tell a bunch of stories beyond a week's time. I mean, whatever. Conceptually,
How old do you think Glory is?
she seems like she's in her like mid-20s.
Okay, I had her pegged at like 17 to maybe 21 years old. And then in this issue, we find out she has an ex-husband, which I realize you can get married.
Okay, and then definitely mid-20s, maybe late, maybe early.
So yeah, maybe
30s
she
or
is
late
like
20s.
24. She got divorced, didn't last very long, whatever. But it was just one of those things that this girl seems like she's maybe 17 to 20.
Anywho,
Sorry.
so she was raised by Red Owen, and was in his car shop a lot. And so he has this Camaro that she's been working on, making it basically like death proof. Get it? Nice. Thanks. Have you seen Death Proof?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. So makes this Camaro SS like into like a Batmobile that can't be penetrated. And she takes it to go handle, and I'm butchering this because it's very dry story. Okay, basically,
Well, we don't have to
she
tell
needs
those, right?
money.
Yeah.
I know she needs money to get a new liver for her adoptive father,
Red.
Oh. And her ex-husband is doing a deal, and she's trying to crash that deal to steal his money to pay for it.
Does she know that it's his money? Or she
I
just
think
knows
so.
that there's
I think
money?
she premeditatedly knew.
She
Okay.
knew about it, so I'd assume she knows
Okay.
because he says
She knew about the transfer.
because he said, "Do you know whose money this is?" And she didn't say anything. So I
Right.
assume.
Okay.
We also get, for some reason, I'm sure we'll find out, there's like a serial killer who uses a freeze-ish propane
Liquid
tank,
nitrogen.
like No Country for Old Men, who blows people. Oh, shit. Who shoots people, and then like instantly their skin can't handle the amount of freeze going on, and it falls apart.
Oh,
Well, liquid
like
nitrogen is ridiculous.
You ever seen T2?
I have.
Just pebbles. Here's the thing about this book, and I couldn't figure it out. I liked it, and then it got to a point where I didn't like it, and then I got to a point where I was like, "Oh, this is okay." Like it felt weird right in the middle.
Yeah.
Like it felt like when it was on her, or it was on the serial killer, and then it was on her, and then there's a part when they cut to those criminals,
The ex-fiance or
and I
ex-husband.
didn't like that. It felt so off, and
What ruined it for me is when the Camaro got out of the picture. I'm like, you build up this Camaro, and within 3 pages, it's gone.
And then after that, it was okay. And we were talking about before the podcast. There's some Rick Remender narration that happens whenever somebody gets hurt in his books, and either it can be horrible or it can be good. And in this book, it was horrible. It was just like her saying, "I got pain," and like passing. It's her talking about her pain in her head.
No.
And which is something
Describing it to you.
which is literally something he does in every one of his books. And ever since Captain America, he's done it in Black Science, he's done it in this book, he's done it in Deadly Class, and he's done it in
Seven to Eternity?
Seven to Eternity. And it comes up every single time. And I believe in Deadly Class, actually, it's actually not that bad. I usually never had an issue in Deadly Class. Because I think we're in Marcus' head the whole time, so it makes sense. But in this book, she's telling narration, and then all of a sudden, like, I don't know, it's just, it reads like, yes, I see it. Why you keep telling me it? Like, I don't need to know that, she didn't say this, but in previous books, recommenders like, yeah, I taste copper in my mouth. Yeah, I see your mouth is bleeding. Like, I know what blood tastes like.
I think it'd be different if like she's thinking,
Called death or glory or handhold.
I gotta stop this bleeding. If it made more sense where she's, except, okay, I've been shot. I need to, what do I do? What do I do? Like, she was actually freaking out.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine she's been shot that often.
That's when that makes more sense than her being like, because the narration's calm and pointing out like she's a doctor exactly what's wrong with her, and I would never think that way. You'd be in shock,
Right.
especially the way she was hurt. You'd be in shock and you'd be freaking out about like, I got to go away from this. You wouldn't be like, man, I feel like You'd be like, no, she would be thinking about all these things. Like, I get away. This is my ex-husband's money. Like, what's he gonna do? Like, all this stuff. And she actually does that later on, and that's okay. When she's like, oh, he knows who I am. Oh, he won't go to the police. He's a coward. Or he won't tell his boss he's a coward. He'll say something else happened. And all that stuff. And that was okay. It's just the part when they get hurt. It's like, too much. I don't need to see it. And actually, it reminds me of, so Sean Murphy, who's writing Batman White Knight, recently said, hey, if DC lets me and you guys want more, I can do more stories in this universe. But here's some rules I'm going to lay down. And one of them was no narration. I'll let the art tell the story. Which I I didn't realize until I started reading White Knight and
You read a couple issues in a row.
a couple issues in a row that how much that's better. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need narration for everything. And some people do great. And Kill or Be Killed, that's great. And Rick Remender, like I said, the class, he does it great. But it's not needed for every story. And I don't think it's needed for this story. Like, it just feels off in this story. It's like,
I think Rick Remender's trying to get us to like identify with her as being the main character, and that's probably why he's doing it. But again, it can come off as like too much, where it almost does the exact opposite. It alienates you because you're like, holy shit, like, I'm not stupid.
it's like every panel has a narration.
But there should be the identification of she's been shot in the back, and it's not like she's in a bulletproof. Maybe it's a little bit bulletproof, but it looks like she's bleeding pretty well. Of course you're going to be hurt. Of course you're going to be... I'm sorry. I've fallen down the stairs twice at my house. And I don't go, oh, man, my ass. Oh, gosh. Blood in my mouth. My mouth wasn't bleeding.
No,
But
you're like, ow.
It's like...
fucking, did I break something?
Okay, so short story. I fell down the stairs Monday afternoon. And the one thing that crossed my mind was not, ow, my ass hurts. It's like, holy shit, I am fucking pissed. And so I punched my stairs. I punched this gate. I mean, I was going to rip my handle
because
off.
you fucking fell on your own.
Yeah. So no, but it's one of those things that.
But he's right though.
But
it wasn't
It wasn't.
Sure.
Oh man, I hurt. It's holy shit. I'm pissed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's what I was saying. You're in shock. It's all reactionary. It's all, you're never calm and like react, telling, like he was in that moment being like, oh,
Sorry for laughing at your pain.
No,
he's at that moment. He's not able to pinpoint every piece of pain and tell me about it.
Right.
It's not like if a doctor show up there, he goes, okay, what hurts? And Alex is like this, and this, and this. But then Alex will be like, okay, now I'm thinking about this. But that's not the first thing that came to mind. If I get shot, I'm not going to be like, okay, that went through my left side. I'm bleeding out all over.
ribs are broken.
Ribs are probably broken. Oh, I hope blood in my mouth. Tastes like copper. Like, no. I would be like, holy shit, I'm shot. Am I going to fucking die? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. But see, the thing is, if this was this, and I think it's just because we read a lot of Rick Remender. If this was this one book, I would be like, this is how this character is. But we literally see it in every one of his books to a point now when I see this, I'm like, that's a Rick Remender thing. And he's just writing that because that's how he knows how to write. And so I think now seeing that over and over again, now for me, that's a crutch for him.
And it pulls me out of the book because up until that point where she got shot, I actually was enjoying this book a lot.
Yeah.
I like the characters. I like
art's great.
I like the bad
Bengal's
guy.
art is so great.
The assassin. I really enjoyed him. I thought, oh, that's a sweet way to be a bad guy is to use this thing. But I got to that dang, like Marvin said, to me it's a crutch. Again, something that's in every book he's ever. Maybe Tokyo Ghost, maybe one of the other ones that I hadn't seen.
It was fun in Tokyo Ghost. I didn't know it was in Tokyo Ghost.
But I think also helped that Sean Murphy was on that book and he wants to let that art tell you.
I guarantee you, he said, yeah, let me tell the story of my art. And that book had less narration.
It did.
That book had panels where it just was them. I can see a panel right now where they're by the waterfall and they're just sitting there. And there's no narration to be like, man, what a beautiful waterfall. Like, I guarantee you if it was Rick Remender himself or with the artist that he's working with for the first time or doesn't have to say like Sean did, there's narration on that panel. But like I said, Sean said, hey, I'm going to be if I do this in the universe, here's my rules I promise you. And one of them was I'm going to let the art tell the story. He's an artist first, so he knows that.
Yeah.
And I think in this story here, it's like the art is so great. Let that breathe for a moment. Mm-hmm. I don't need to know that she got shot and how like she's pinpointing it. Like she's not even a doctor. She's a mechanic.
Yeah.
And like I don't need to know that she's like trying to pinpoint her pain. Like in that moment she's getting shot. Like Alex said, be more worried that you're trying to run away from these guys. Be more worried that you got shot and you're dying. Be more worried that maybe I won't get this money for my father, my whatever, adopted father. Be more worried about those things because a human would be more worried about those things in that moment. They wouldn't be like, man, that went through my left side there. I hope it hit a kidney. Like, I'm not thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's the fight or flight, and right now she's in the flight. Her last concern is, I got hurt. It's, I need to escape and live. Because if I die, then my adopted father will die. She didn't adopt him, sorry.
I forget what book it was, but we talked about it on the show. I know for sure. Where there was a doctor who got hurt. And he went through, it was in Lazarus, I think.
Are you sure it wasn't that Hadrian's Wall?
That might have been it. For some reason, I'm thinking Lazarus, but it might have been Hadrian as well. One of the two. And he was like, oh, okay. Like, he went through the medical stuff about it, and it made sense because that's who he is. A doctor would be like, okay, did I damage this and stuff like that? Like, if a doctor fell down the stairs like Alex did, he would probably be like, okay, did I damage anything? What's damaged here? Besides this bruise, you know? Like, or he, you know what? He fall down the stairs and get angry. He fucking fell down the stairs. Like, people are human, and they have natural reactions to things. They're not going to get in a car crash, and all of a sudden, like, get out of the car right away and be like, okay, my left leg is injured a little bit. You think I bruised my right side? And, you know, nobody's that calm in those situations.
Right. I think it'd be different after she got shot. You get back to the garage or wherever her hiding place is right now, and she's like, okay, ribs kind of hurt. I understand. Okay, the adrenaline's gone now. The pain has set it.
I know.
Like, okay, now it hurts.
That's what I mean. If it literally wasn't after she got shot.
Right.
So it's just I don't mean to be nitpicky, but this is one of those things where the logic thing. This really does.
I was literally going to say that it sounds like we're being nitpicky as hell, but it brought me out of that book so much that I was like really, you know, kind of into, except for that one scene. But it brought me out so much, and it made me feel so not attached to that character anymore. Where I was like, okay, now it's Rick.
It didn't really get me excited for issue 2.
No, I don't. That's the thing. I don't know if I'm going to get to issue 2. Like, I liked it, but I don't know how much I like it enough. And then once again, like, Rick's super busy. How long is like?
Yeah, did you see that letters page?
Oh,
Editor, like a page and a half. Rick Remender literally has a 1-paragraph blurb. The last thing he says, "Oh, hope you guys like this book. See you next month, Rick."
I think I'm going to get issue 2 to give it to see if I really like it.
He needs to stop doing so much. He needs to slow down.
I think he's one of those people that he needs to focus on 1 or 2 books because Low hasn't come out. Deadly Class comes out once every 3 months, 2 months.
Some New Eternity.
Some New Eternity we haven't seen in
That's coming out
half a year.
Apparently.
That's the thing. It's not like Jason Aaron where I saw Thor come out all the time. He's doing Avengers, and then Southern Bastards is like coming out every once in a while. That makes sense. He's doing work that pays more probably for him. That's a consistent job. I believe he's Marvel exclusive. So like he's on that stuff to make some money, and then he's falling behind in his own work. Makes sense.
Well, he fell behind with Jason Latour.
And Jason Latour had
family
issues. His father died. So, but Rick Remender literally told us in Deadly Class the letter pages, I'm working on 2 TV shows right now, so it's hard to keep up with my comics.
He's like, I'm tired. I'm just dead tired.
So, like Jesus. Which is fine, but quit putting out. Don't put out a new comic.
But you know who else is working on a TV show or a movie and does books? Ed Brubaker.
Yeah, he is.
The man's a busy man, but he still puts out his book monthly.
Oh well.
Anyway,
because we talked about it, I'm giving it a 7 because that art's amazing.
Art's pretty good.
I'm gonna give it an 8 due to art.
I think though, for me at least, I don't think I'm gonna get another issue of this. I think I'll wait until it's all out and read and see how it is. Unless I hear that it's not good, and then I won't get it. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing in this first issue for me. I mean, there would have been. It just felt disjointed, and then that one scene was like so brought me out of the book because it's like. And this is all conjecture and me thinking, but in that one scene, it felt like to me that Rick is so busy that he's like, he knows how to write those scenes, and it's the same thing every time. So he's just like, let me plug it in quick and get
fill the
done.
quota, yeah.
And so for me, that inspired me to be like, oh yeah, this man has it all in for issue 2. Oh yeah, that's me. I found it. Dr. Star in the, what's it called?
Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows.
Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows. This is Jeff Lemire and Max Fiumara. Dave Stewart on colors? Yes, he is. This is the 3rd issue of the miniseries spinning off of Black Hammer about the Dr. Star character. Who did we see him in the main series? Or he's in Sherlock Frankenstein?
Nope.
This is something brand new. We see them. We see other Black Hammer characters because he was on the Liberty Squadron.
You see him in the first issue.
And Golden Gale's in the second issue.
Yeah, you're right.
And in this issue, we saw what's the guy's name? Hawk.
Hawkman.
Wingman.
That's his name. Yeah. Can I say? So I don't really need to tell you what happens story-wise in this one because it's just like you have to read the whole thing because I think these 3 issues. I feel like I don't want to ruin it for people.
Yeah.
I mean, we can if we want to, but
we don't have to.
I want to say, I don't know, this might be controversial on this podcast with you two. Out of Black Hammer, out of Sherlock Frankenstein, and then a little bit of Black Hammer Age of Doom. This might be the best thing out of Black Hammer. Or
No, this
the
is
whole
100% the best.
It's so fucking good.
1, 2, and
It's
3
so good.
have like knocked me the fuck over.
It's
I like Black Hammer, the main story, more.
okay. Well, I think
that just has more of a slow build. I feel just because it's like we all know their issues, whatever. This one, it's like it's so much more. For me, it's more
more
real.
emotional
It's
than-
more emotional, and like when things happen, there's a shit ton of medium rare stakes. When they're in this alternate dimension, if you run into a wall, you die.
And so the basic story is Dr. Starr builds this technology, ignores his family. He's like, I just need to build this. When I build it, we'll be well off, and I'll be done, and we can live happy ever after. He reaches that point, and he's like, it's not enough. I want to be able to do something else. He becomes a superhero with his power. And he still ignores his family. When he was doing the research, he would be gone for like months, he said. And he wouldn't even think about it. He'd be like, I got to work on this. And so he basically, there's a point when he finishes it, he goes, today's my son's first birthday. This is an issue 1. My son's first birthday. He dedicates it kind of to him when he's doing it. But he literally hasn't seen his son in months.
Yeah.
And it just tells you that, and he says this because when he's older, there's some narration about how he regrets how he didn't see how dumb he was, and how now that he's older, he can see how his mistakes that he made, that he was doing this for his family in a weird way in his head, but he actually was doing it for himself. It never was for his family. And so when he dedicates it to his son, it's just like a gesture that he thinks he needs to make because he has a son. And he dedicates his son his first birthday. He's never been there.
Well, it's to make him look like a good guy.
That's what I mean. Like everything's like to come off good. And then in the second issue, his son wants to look in the telescope and stuff like that. He's like telling him off, ignoring him.
Yeah.
And these moments for me is like he has the time to be with his son. He's ignoring them. For me, that's depressing. It's so depressing. It's
he's
so
more
hard
focused on
to
his
read.
work. Yeah.
And then so he goes into space and he finds other life. And they're like, hey, there's this black hole bad guy. I forgot what his name was. Doesn't really matter. Some guy in the black hole. And so he goes up there to fight him. And he realizes he's so close to the black hole, the gravity slows down time for him. He comes back to the alien planet. The aliens are way older. And he realizes, holy shit, I just basically time traveled. And he didn't even think about it. He's like, I was too busy being a superhero. I didn't think about the scientist part of it, the science part of this, that I would travel through time. Goes back to Earth. It's been 18 years. His son is grown up and went to Vietnam. And his wife is alcoholic now. And she is so like, the house looks horrible. And he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't think about it. And she slaps him and she goes, what do you mean you didn't think about it? You've been gone for 20 years. And he's like, no, 18. And she's like, don't you even say
Yeah, right.
18 years. And she's like, where's my son? And he's like, where's my son? And she goes, he's in Vietnam. And he goes to find him and he's not even there. And because he's been injured. And so he shows up and he tries to show up at his son and be like, I'm sorry, I'll make it up to you. But he's been gone for 18 years. Even if, at least I feel this way. So even if he's gone for 18 years and he's like, I made a mistake, I wasn't mean to be gone 18 years, you still left.
Right.
And you
still chose to do this thing.
You still chose to do this for no reason other than
Your
that
own
you wanted to
curiosity.
see if you could do it. And his son's like, no, get away. I don't want anything to do with you. You've been that for 18 years. He goes, every day my mom said you would, like, you know how much I prayed for you to come back? How much I wished that you would come back? And then mom was like, oh, yeah, she didn't believe that you were dead. And he was like, yeah, he's coming back. And I wish you were dead because it'd be easier than having her go through this, that you're back now. And he wants nothing to do with her. Meanwhile, the whole thing that's going on, there's flashback to the future. His kid has cancer now. And he's having regrets because he never had time to spend with the kid. And now basically his kid's been taken away from him. And his
Well, what
wife,
does he do too after that moment though? He's like, well, I'm going to fix this. And then
yeah,
he goes,
third issue, he's like, I'm going to fix
Yeah.
this.
and he goes back to that planet.
He goes back, he
Yeah.
goes, because they can cure people.
Right.
I've seen
They
it
can
happen.
heal themselves.
So I'm going to go back there and ask him to heal my son. So he goes up there, and we kind of learn, at this point, I think it's pretty clear that this is a take in Green Lantern.
Yeah.
He goes up there, and then they're like, you helped us so much when you were here, destroy that black hole monster, or whatever the heck it was.
It was a dragon of some kind, I think.
And yes, and so we've dedicated our lives to being like you. They have a whole core of people. And he's like, I came up here because my son has cancer and I want you to heal him. And he's like, no, it won't work on you guys. He goes, it's too powerful. We're not compatible. And so he can't heal his son. But he goes, they go, it doesn't matter. Look at how many sons you have now. And he turns around because that's, and I would imagine that if he was young still, he'd be like, yeah, look at this, what I've done. But now that he's older, he's like, no, he's like, I want to save my son. And he realizes that maybe he can't. It's the one thing that he can't do. He went through life trying to be like, I got to do this, make sure I think I can do this one thing. Let me see if I can do it. And then he kept doing it, and making these accomplishments. And then the one thing he can't beat is his son's cancer, to have more time with him. When he had the time all along, he just chose not to use it. And I think for me, like seeing this story, it's like so depressing and gut wrenching because, what was and like kind of like in Day Tripper, there was a story when he was away from his family, but in that one, his heart was in the right place. He was away to provide for them, and he wanted to come back. And in this one, we get a different type of story where, in this one, he's away from his family, and he never thinks about coming back. He never like thinks about them when he's away. He said that one scene when he's like, "I'm doing my work for weeks, months, and I don't even realize I'm away." And it's so depressing because of that lost time concept. Like he loses time for 18 years. That first year, and who knows how many years before he left that first time, how much time did he lose on his own?
Yeah.
So like
he was wasting what he already had.
He was wasting time anyways. It didn't matter. He would have had 18 years. How much time would he waste if he was still on Earth?
No.
What I think he has the right intentions going to space again to go see those aliens again, but I'm like, don't you fucking get it? Like, stay. That's the whole point of this. Stay. You don't need to constantly be doing things. Stay there with your son.
Is that his son's wife that's like, get away, you've done enough?
Right.
I don't want you to see your grandchildren. He doesn't want to see you either. It's just overall, like,
I think show the cliffhanger, though, is there is an entrance to the paradimension, so he could potentially, I don't know if it's going to have to go back.
The cover for the next one is him picking up his son to go in the paradimension. So we'll see what happens. Maybe it's going to be, it seems like this whole story is going to be tragic. I don't see happy ending happening.
Yeah.
But
I think it's almost important that there isn't a happy ending, just to show how dire these characters' lives are. Because to me, that's a big thing. Is that showing these lives these characters lead. He's lived a horrible life with his family, and this just shows what happens. You chose to live this life. You're going to lose your family. You've lost your wife. Your wife hates you. Your son wants nothing to do with you. Now that he's dying, now you show interest. There's a commercial back in, I think, the 90s that was a little boy would ask his dad, hey, Dad, do you want to play cards with me? And Dad's like, no, I'm too busy. I'm watching the news. Dad, do you want to go play basketball? And the dad would be like, nope, I'm doing our bills or whatever it would be. So the boy would ask his dad 2 or 3 more times before the end of the episode or the end of the commercial. And the boy gives his dad $6.33. And his dad goes, what's this for? He goes, well, this is all the money I had in my piggy bank. Is this enough for you to spend time with me? And just thinking about that right now makes me sad. And it's like, that's what this is.
Well, even like there's that issue too when he's like, Dad, I wish I could go to the stars with you. And he's like, no, children will get in the way. Oh, and it's like, that's the same thing. He just wants to spend time with his dad.
Right.
And his dad's like, I
gotta do this on my own.
His dad is too scientific that he can't be human. And then when it's too late, he realizes that. And I think it's a tragic story with a tragic character. And I think that's what makes it so great. And once again, I don't know how this Jeff Lemire's writing so many good stories at once. And this man is having another year so far, at least.
Yeah, he's doing great.
We're 5 months in, and it's still going great.
Maybe he's like a firefighter. He writes for 24 hours, and he takes 48 hours rest. And he works.
Yeah.
We talked about this weeks ago. He's writing the book, The Century. I think Marvin has said that you're not going to get it. I literally
saw it. I updated my poll list today. I saw it because I was going through the Marvel books that are coming out. And I saw it. I was like, do I want to put that on there? Because I do not like The Century at all. But Jeff Lemire has not been wrong this year. He's not been wrong this year.
Nope.
And like even when this came out, you can go back and listen to the forecast. I'm not exactly sure what I've said, but I'm pretty sure I was like, another thing, it's going to be good, but I don't know if I'm really interested in reading another story about Black Hammer. Like I want Black Hammer to come back. I don't want to read this thing. And it's so good.
Right. It's amazing.
I almost feel like we always... And the weird thing is, I always feel like we misjudge Jeff Lemire going, he can't be writing another good book. That, it's just a book he's writing, but maybe we'll look into it. And then we were proven wrong that, again, this man he writes.
He's definitely the one consistently writing the most good books.
Correct.
You know what, actually, it's the thing that he does best, and I think It happens in Black Hammer. It happened in Sherlock Frankenstein. It happens in this, Royal City. What makes his books great is that he takes concepts like this, which is so out there, so crazy, and it's so human and relatable that you start to worry that you're Dr. Starr, especially if you have a kid, and especially if I have a kid my age, 2-year-old, who wants to hang out all the time, but like I literally can't hang out all the time, but I try to as much as I can. But I'm reading that book, and he's triggering for Jeff Lemire. He's like, what is scary about having a kid? And it's that you'll not spend enough time with the kid while you have it. Something will happen and you have no more time.
Right.
And while reading that, I was just like, it triggers that fear in you, but also it's like, it's depressing because you feel bad for this guy, but you also feel angry at this guy. You're like, why are you doing this?
Wake up.
But then it's also like, you could possibly see yourself getting in that situation where you're so into something you don't mean to. And he says in the narration, like, I never meant to do that. He says, I just got so into like trying to accomplish this stuff that I like forgot what was important. And it's that part. It's also another part of that fear. It's like, what if like you got into something so much, it's like you don't realize that you're doing this to somebody. You're not even a son, like a spouse or girlfriend, something like that.
Well, I did this last week. My daughter was born 6 weeks ago, and I spent the first 2.5 home with her. Then last week, I've been back to work for a while, but I was at work, or we're doing the show, or we're doing other things, or I'm doing this, and I talked to my wife. I go, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "I haven't seen you. I miss you." And it's like, holy shit. And I've been busy.
We're missing
I'm missing time with my family.
We're missing that part of the book too. His wife, literally at the first issue, she's like, "Where are you going? You just got home. I haven't seen you." And it's like,
I got to go up to the laboratory. I got to go do this.
And we don't know where she is in the future. Oh no, she died. She died of cancer. Because they talk about this. His son's wife talked about how his wife had cancer and his son has cancer.
Oh, the radiation.
You did something with your powers. And he's like, "There's no way I tested it." And she's like, "Yeah, you killed her and now you're killing them." So even like that part of it, like he basically, anytime he had it with his wife was gone. When he left for 18 years, he came back and she was like really old, and then she dies of cancer. So, I mean, but he's already, like in the story where we're seeing now, we can see that part of it, but obviously it's affected him. I mean, that's probably where he is now, regretting all this stuff.
Did they blame that it was his experiments on using that stuff that got them potentially infected?
Because they got radiation from doing that.
I think it's great. It's definitely not what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Max Vermaar's art's great. I think he makes these people, even though like there's aliens in this book, the human part of it, he draws in a way that it's not 100% realistic, but I feel like I know these people. Like it looks like looks like a regular guy, right?
He does good face work.
Dave Stewart obviously is an amazing colorist. It looks great.
Well, think of the title though, Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows. Like it makes sense. Yeah. Like just think what all the opportunities he squandered of tomorrow.
It's great. It's a 10.
Yeah, 10. 100%.
God, it's so good.
You gonna rate this book?
9. I'm gonna give it a 9. No, I was thinking about it. I'm trying because to me this wasn't a 10. Actually, issue 2 was a 10.
Hey,
this was good, but it wasn't what I was expecting.
Would you agree? When I was reading this issue, I was thinking, I was like, you literally could give this to anybody who hasn't read Black Hammer and be like, you can read this.
Yes.
Yeah. Sherlock Frankenstein, you have to kind of know that,
right?
But this one is on its own. You could read this.
But this is almost one of those things, kind of like Day Tripper, where I almost think you need to be at least in the right place to be reading it.
Oh no, yeah, this is depressing.
Because this, I mean.
This is depressing.
This is a tough thing.
I always
forget
to read. It's depressing based on the cover, and I read it. I'm like,
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't look like it would be. You're like, oh, this is a superhero, and then you read, and it's literally how it ruined his life.
Yep, and but that's something that you almost forget as a superhero reading superhero things. As a hero, it's hard on your life. Peter Parker's probably the best one to see it as. He struggles in school, and it's not that he's not smart; it's that he's tired. His social life, his girlfriends, his Aunt May. He's always having to come up with a fake reason. The only thing he actually succeeds at is getting pictures of himself, and he still doesn't make any money worthwhile.
Last book that we're going to talk about is Batman number 46. This is The Gift Part 2. It's written by Tom King with art by Tony S. Daniel and the inking by Sandu Floria. Colors by Tomei More. Basically, this takes place a year after the last issue. We get, it says that right away when you open it. But from that reveal when Bruce is like, well, I'm going to go celebrate my parents' wedding anniversary. This is a year later. You can tell that Booster Gold, he feels screwed. Like, he's just like, gosh, look at this mess I created. And he hasn't quite climbed his way out of it yet because he's still trying to get that trigger moment in Bruce, Batman. Well, he's not Batman right now. To be like, hey, you love Catwoman. So his big genius idea is to break Catwoman out of Arkham. And she seems similar to our Catwoman, but all you hear her say is meow. Which you're like, okay, clearly she's a mental case. Like, she can only say one word. Or I thought she was just doing it first to be cute. Like, just be like, you know,
I think the first time you thought it's supposed to be like what she normally does is make her cat sound. Then you realize, well, there's something else going on. And it's not even like she's crazy, but I think she actually thinks she's a cat woman.
Right.
Because when he gets her out of when he gets her out of Arkham, she's just laying on the bed, minding her own business, isn't mad at Booster. It's just like, oh, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm just sleeping on the bed.
Right. Well, we'll get to the end and that'll make a lot of this issue make more sense. But he gets her a costume, looks a lot like Michelle Pfeiffer's Batman Returns costume with the stitched leather, which was probably intentional, kind of make this like an Elseworlds.
Well, he talks about that. Is it Ted Cord? Ted Cord was the sewer. I can't sew very well.
Right.
So this is what you get when I sew stuff.
And then we kind of cut to the Waynes, where Bruce is, or Thomas is like, he's like, well, before that though, he's like, even with Thomas and Martha still alive, he's like, Gotham's in shambles. Like, it's tearing apart at the pieces. There's no Batman to save it. I mean, you have Dick Grayson.
But he's a killer.
Yeah, right, exactly. So everything that Thomas has believed in, that he's been trying to establish in this city, has failed. And there's no other hope or anything like that. And it overwhelms Thomas so much that he has a heart attack. And then, that's good. We turn to we go back to the Booster Catwoman storyline, and like Booster makes her suit, and she says meow again, and with one of the best one-page splash shots I've ever seen. Good job, Tony Dano. You're getting back in my good. Yeah,
books. But this is one of those books that he knew had to look good, because when he was doing Justice League, it's like, oh, this is kind of half your work, half as good as what you normally would put out.
One thing that I was surprised about with this book is the fact that he had Bruce going to a church, because, you know, obviously when something that traumatic happens to you, sometimes your first outlook, I mean, it can be his faith, but in the case of Batman Bruce Wayne, I don't think his first thing he did when they died was, I'm going to go to church and pray.
No, but as Bruce as a child wouldn't have.
Right.
Bruce as an adult who's always had his family who raised him, and that's just showing that this is a different Bruce actually going to a faithful place where Bruce, who's Batman, wouldn't.
Right.
Bruce wouldn't believe in that.
Right. So that was kind of cool to see, because, you know, you're right. Bruce is like, I've had everything, but it's like, is it too much to ask just to keep this one thing? Like, does this have to change? And, you know, we get to the end of the issue, and he sort of gets what he wants. His dad does survive the heart attack. And then we get to, basically we're getting to, are they at the manor at the end?
Let's see. No, because I think at first that's Selena Kyle's
they're
apartment.
At the manor.
No, yeah. But where she's getting shot at from Dick Grayson Batman, I think it was at her apartment.
Okay.
So then Booster takes her to the mansion.
Right. Booster takes her to the mansion to get that moment that he's been hoping for, that Bruce will see Selena and be like, oh, I love you, and like, this is what it's all about. And so Bruce is talking to his dad, and everything seems good. Like, you can see him smile. You can see Bruce smiling, and then Catwoman and Booster show up, and Booster's like, yes, this is it. Like, this is the moment. And Alfred's like, what the hell's going on? And before you know it, like, Alfred's calling for security. And right as he's almost finishing saying that word, the Catwoman you've seen in this entire issue slits his throat with her nails. And so Alfred's dying, and then Booster's like, what the fuck? He says, wait, what? I'm like, what would you say in that moment? Would you be like, huh? And then Thomas is getting up, and he recognizes Selena. So I guess they're a part of the storyline with this alternate timeline is that Thomas was the reason that Selena's orphanage got shut down. So secretly, Selena had been wanting to get broken out of Arkham this whole time to get revenge on Thomas Wayne. And Booster Gold, I guess, was just the gatekeeper, taking her right to him. She is licking Alfred's blood off her fingers as she then attacks Thomas Wayne and starts ripping his heart out, basically, or ripping him to shreds.
At least.
And she's just going crazy. And then why you got Dick Grayson Batman showing up saying, and he says these cool things. He's like, Selena Kyle, die. And so he just keeps saying that until he keeps shooting at her.
But we found out she can say a different word. She said ow after getting shot.
That's true. And so you see Bruce reacting to all this like his dad just got murdered in front of him by Catwoman. Catwoman gets shot by Dick Grayson. But it seems like she's out for the count, and she comes back and she goes after Martha. And then as Dick Grayson's trying to shoot Catwoman, accidentally hits Catwoman, but kills Martha in the process too. Or maybe not. Just kills Martha.
I think Catwoman's attacking Dick Grayson after she cut off his fingers.
Oh, yeah.
And then Martha's going to intercede, I think, go to see Bruce. And Dick Grayson shoots her in the back.
Yeah, shoots her in the back. And then Bruce is so fed up because his dad just got murdered in front of him. His mom got shot, that Bruce uses a gun and shoots Dick Grayson Batman in the head. And then at the end, it's Booster Gold's been knocked out. Thomas and Martha are murdered. And so is Dick Grayson Batman. He's lying there dead. And Bruce is just sitting there kneeling, yelling, "No." It was a very intense issue. I know I literally just spoiled the narrative point A to B, but you can't really describe this comic without doing that story-wise. Art by Tony Daniel was really great. I think this is some of the strongest art I've seen in a long time. The story by Tom King, very powerful, very fucked up, because it's basically showing you this clean-cutter world of what Bruce wanted, and what Bruce wants. How horrible is this timeline? Like, it's so fucked up.
I actually didn't even realize this was Tony S. Daniel until you just said it, and I agree. It's actually pretty good.
Really?
With Tomei Morar on the colors. Actually, yeah, it looks great. Tom King story. I texted these guys this when I read this. I was like, it's fucked up. I don't know. It's seriously a messed up issue. Mostly at the end, he didn't tell this part, but actually, it's probably my favorite part of the issue. When everybody's dead, Booster Gold is dying, and Bruce is saying no. He's like, "Did I do it? I bet I did it. I'm a hero. I always do it. I have to do it. I saved the world." And it's like, Booster, come on.
Oh, you screwed up big time.
First off, everybody's dead. And gonna have to go back in time again and do something.
I like how even in a different timeline, Bruce still can't have what he wants. Yes, he had it for a while, and for however old he is. But
the
in the
result
end, it still bites him in the ass.
Except in this timeline, no wife, clearly. No future wife, because she's dead. That you'd want to marry.
I'm ready to believe with his parents around, he remains single his whole life.
I assumed he was the playboy. I mean, he's just going around.
I'm sure he's.
Oh, he stays that kind of guy.
I mean,
yeah,
the guy who
why not?
thought he would kind of be.
Daddy's paying
instead
all
of being
bills.
his cover, that's who he actually is as a person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought it was good. I mean, is it as good as a Joker story in that DC Nation? No, but then again, I don't think it's trying to be. I think it's trying to be a Booster.
It's trying to do exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's trying to show you an alternate timeline about what would happen if Martha and Thomas survived, if they lived.
I think it's also showing, like, if that never happened to Bruce, like, not only is he not Batman, but also he's not really that great of a person.
Right.
Like, there's certain things that make him the way he is. Being with Catwoman, his parents dying, all these ingredients that make him the way he is. And without them, and also it's kind of hilarious that Booster Gold is like, he wants his parents.
Booster's an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, that's his wedding present. Be like, oh, I'm going to let them live. But he doesn't realize, like, the essential domino effect that it has on his life that makes him become the way he is. And, I mean, he should realize that. He's been time traveling for a while.
This is one of the biggest cascading effects that you could ever read. I mean, Dick Grayson becomes Batman because no one took him in after his parents got killed.
Which is weird that he actually has a bat outfit, because he wouldn't have the fear that Bruce would have had, because Bruce was afraid of bats.
Yeah,
who knows? Maybe Dick Grayson's afraid of bats too.
And then Catwoman, because she was an orphan for a time, that orphanage, helped raise her, and then she figured out on her own who her family was. Like, continuity's still the same from pre-52. And then...
Well, it sounds like that the orphanage shut down, so she was like kind of homeless.
Right, she was homeless and had to survive on her own.
Yeah, so that's why
figure out who her family is.
That's why
she's older.
She can't really talk. Is that she really didn't have an education? So that was good. It's not really trying to be. That's the thing, though. It's like not really trying to be like super deep, but in a way, it kind of is.
The more you think about it, the more kind of things.
So it's like a 9 for me. It's good.
So this is a 9. It's 9. It has its really funny moments, and then it has those really like, holy shit, that's fucked up.
It's I think there's 2 Tom Kings. There's a Tom King that's like really like serious and introspective, and there's a Tom King that's like, hey, here's a fun story. Oh, by the way, it's still kind of like messed up in a way.
It's like 3 Jokers. It's the mob boss, the psycho, and the other one.
What did you just learn about 3 Jokers again?
No, I just like.
How do you remember this?
What?
Why do you bring it up like twice tonight?
Because you just said that there's 2 Tom Kings.
Oh, I know.
So I'm saying there's 3 Jokers.
Supercon 2018, Return of the Con, September 28th, 29th, and 30th. Tickets on sale at supercon.com. Alex, we're going to be there doing a show, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to be there on the 28th doing a live show for everyone. What's it going to be called? Wednesday Comics After Dark.
And not only us are going to be there, a lot of people are going to be there. Phil Hester, right, Garrett?
Yes, Phil Hester, the current artist of Batman Beyond. He's done other projects like Shipwreck. He's done some Swamp Thing that you may or may not have seen, and some Holland Files that came out recently.
Not only Phil, Science Steve, Shay Fontana, Tony Fleece, Travis Nye, Midwest All Pro doing a show the 28th. They'll be doing a show that night. That's the main attraction that night. Jill Thompson, Ryan Cody, John Allen, and more. Tom Wynn. Going to be at supercon.com. Make sure there's a lot going on that weekend. I would say, if I am going to tell you any kind of advice, buy that weekend pass. You won't regret it. You got MAP concert that night also. You got Wednesday Comics After Dark. And then you got a whole weekend of stuff to do, people to see. Supercon.com for more information. Welcome back. Here we are with Dylan Jacobson. He's a comic book artist, storyteller, and educator from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It says here you've been creating comics since 2011. Is that, I see here, let me read the list. Little Alice was a webcomic.
Yeah, oh my God, that's awful. Let's not talk about it.
I'm not talking about that. There's not even a link there. You didn't link it, so I can't even look at it.
Well, it's gone. I don't have the website up anymore.
Did you burn every copy?
I have a lot of pages at home that I would love to get rid of, but it's one of those things where I have to do it without anyone knowing, because if my fiance or friends are like, oh no, that's like the beginning. Don't get rid of your early stuff. It means
You
something.
gotta start somewhere.
It's like, no.
I said, to be fair, they do have a point though. Once you blow up, not literally explode.
Right. Should
Like,
I
get those old sketch pages from you?
Yeah, well, they're terrible.
Okay, but they'll still
Concept.
These are terrible, but man, I want to have them.
Mach
Right.
1.
If someone wanted them, that would blow my mind. Like, even if I was tremendously successful someday, if someone's like, I want to buy those pages, especially the ones that never went online. Because I think we had 60 pages online, and I think I drew 100 of them. So there's a good 40 that just never went up. So
is that 2011?
Yeah.
So Little Alice, you're doing Little Alice as a webcomic. Is that you're like juggling a normal job while you're trying to do...
That was juggling the end of college and the intro of a normal job. And then I basically shoved off my homework to work on that when I was in school. And then when I moved into work, I slowed way down because I was doing a page a day in college.
Yeah.
I upload a page a day, and I was doing standard comic format, not web comic format. I was trying to be a comic book on the internet sort of thing, which was not successful because you had to scroll to read the whole thing. But it was still just one page. It didn't work the normal way. But anyway, I was doing that once a week or once a day, and then I moved on doing it twice a week, and then I moved on to doing it once a week, and then I kind of didn't do it for a while, and then I came back when I had a bout of unemployment. But I think one of the most mature decisions I ever made was I have way more things I want to work on. This project isn't great. I've learned a lot. I think if I just start something new and let this one go, then we'll be in a good spot.
And then you went on to do The Tide That Returns?
Yes, which I really enjoyed. And that was the first time I decided to write a story about myself.
Yeah.
So it was a seafaring comic. I no longer have the website up for that either because...
I just clicked on it.
Yeah, it just doesn't go anywhere. And that was because that was ramping up as Champions was sort of being born.
Yeah.
And I had to make the decision of like, do I try to shuffle or like juggle 2 comics that I spend hours on every day, or do I just do one? So I stopped Tide the Returns like partway through its first like major arc, and the website just said like, this will come back when Champions is done, trust me. And then I took the site down after like a year of it saying that, and I do intend on working on it again.
I was going to say, it says here 2019 returning.
Yeah, that's
still on course for that.
Yeah, I hope so.
And Champions available now, issue 1 and 2, 3 coming.
Yeah. Quite frankly, 3 should be printed within the next few days, like 4 to 5 days, or at least sent to print. And then it depends on how long the lineup is at Kablam. Sometimes this time of year, they're usually pretty quick. Like I could probably get it in a week or two. So I'm hoping the end of May, especially because my next con is in July, so I need it at least before that. So in this day and age, we were just beforehand, I was talking, there may just be a change in the business. Mm-hmm. Digital is such, I would say it used to be that print was everything, and digital was like, hey, that's a thing on the side. But I would think now they're probably on par, or maybe digital is more, right? It's like, what's the ratio for you? For me, I sell way more paper comics.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I get a sales report from Amazon because they own Comixology once a month, and it's like, you sold 2. And when I do a show, I sell a lot more comics. But that just might be that I'm more enigmatic and like persuasive when I'm at a booth and
able to actually explain your product
instead of just having it floating out on Comixology. Right. So I think that there is definitely a huge following for webcomics, but penetrating that market is, or at least digital copies of a comic book, is difficult, or at least more ill-defined than.
Well, I guess you're right.
Going to a con,
you go to a con, you're only competing with whoever's there.
Right.
On Comixology, you're competing with everything that they have on there,
absolutely,
which is like millions of comics.
And they say yes to a lot of people. And I was super worried they would turn me away because I had this illusion of like grand legitimacy of Comixology. Like if they say no, then no one will ever say yes. Yeah. But they said yes pretty quick. Nice. So I was like, well, okay, and this is easier than it seems. And they do have a wonderful system. We could spend a whole podcast talking about how Comixology works. But I love it, but I definitely see far more print sales.
I do have one question, because I did buy your 2 comics in Comixology. Yeah. And panel view. Do you direct that?
Coolest.
Or
no,
they do that?
No. So that was one of the things I thought we could talk about. Is you get an agent. I don't remember mine's name because I barely deal with Comixology, but they review the whole book. They make sure that there aren't any like glaring digital artifacts. They make sure that you don't have too many spelling errors where it's unreadable. And then they do the panel view for you. And so that's the nice. Only thing that gives at least a few day turnaround is that someone has to set that up. Yeah. But when basically, when you're submitting a series, they approve the series. And so when I sent them 2, instead of it being like, it was waiting to be approved, it was like, we're just waiting to get the panel view up. And that took 4 days or something. And then it was up. So
this may be a dumb question. Panel view is when it jumps to panel for me.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't read online stuff.
Right.
I read paper copies.
Doesn't even know how to say digital. So.
Well, that was so when I was reading it, I was like, so panel view basically, whoever creates that becomes the director of that book.
They do kind of, yeah.
Because they not only focus on each panel, they're also focusing on word balloons and like deciding where to stop in it.
Yeah, and then they know how to cut up like a giant panel. Yeah. Or like panels that merge sort of stuff. They know how to decide where to go in a way that I'm not upset about. I love it. Like, oh my God.
That's what I was going to ask.
That's a great way to read it.
Does it ruin your direction? Like you set it up a certain way and they maybe were like, oh no, that's not what I intended to like stop here. And I'm like, no, they knew how to do it. Okay, well. I was curious because I was reading it. I was like, wow, it really does.
I've never seen the issue 1. Yeah. Because Comixology, if you're listeing, you haven't given me my free copy of my issue 1 yet. And I don't want to buy it for myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
You gave me my issue 2, so I've seen that. But maybe issue 1 has some problems, but issue 2 looks great.
No, they both were fine. They both were fine. I find it curious, like you said, there'll be like a whole page and they decide where to stop on that page. And I was like, did Dylan decide that? Or did somebody at Amazon?
My God, if they made you do that, I think that would stop a lot of people from uploading.
That's what I was wondering. They wouldn't
know how to do it. They'd be like, oh, I hate this. This sucks.
That's what I was going to ask you. Did it take forever to figure out where to stop in your book? But if it's a process, they do. So yeah. This is my private life as a webcomic you have going on right now. It's more personal, right?
Yeah. So the thing that really got me readers when I was doing Tide That Returns was Patreon was brand new. And I signed up in beta because I was 1, unemployed, and 2, it sounded cool. So my link is ridiculously short. It's patreon.com/Dylan. Shameless plugging.
Yeah.
And
you got in early.
I got in early, and I was doing tithe returns on the side. I was basically compromising my day job to work on it. Like, I would come in an hour early. I would open it was a web design company. I would open the doors so everybody could come in. I would do coffee. I basically did some like office administration stuff so I could be there an hour early to edit things and upload my webcomic. But when I decided I need something to put on Patreon, I was like, I'm not going to put Tide up there. I'm going to do something else. So I started doing a journal comic about myself, which I ran on there for like about a year. And it was really loose and wasn't super forward, but I tried to draw myself literally and like other people in my life very literally. And as I tell a lot of other people, once I started having more meaningful relationships, I didn't want to do it that way anymore. I didn't want to like detail my sex life.
Right.
In that sense. So I just stopped. And when I decided I wanted to do something like that again, I did This Is My Private Life, which is based off of an Oingo Boingo song. Everyone's like weird animal
Danny
characters.
Elfman?
Yeah. So everyone's weird animal characters, and I rarely use names, so it's easier to say what's going on. But in the recent past, I realized I wasn't really telling stories from my life. I would just write about like, this is what we did in role playing last week. Because I usually do it on Sunday mornings, and sometimes I don't know what the fuck to say.
Yeah.
Can I swear on here?
Yeah, you can.
Absolutely.
Okay. And
It's explicit.
good. So now I'm trying to get back into doing a narrative with it.
Yeah.
And I just bought a tablet, so I've been doing it digitally now, which is daunting.
So is this newest issue that you put on at the end of April, is this digital? Or did you draw this?
The newest
The Breakout
episode.
Begins?
Yeah, that's digital.
It is? Okay.
Yep, the Who's Going Down one with the elevator where it starts being in color is the first digital one.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask that too. I
yeah.
go see their black and white and all of a sudden,
Yep.
oh, sweet, new tablet. I missed that one.
Yeah. So it's the first digital one. I really love it. A lot of my friends who role play with me really enjoy that aspect, so they're kind of bummed out. They're like, well, why don't you do 2 webcomics? I'm like, I have a lot of things going on, dude.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to ignore that aspect of my life because it's really the biggest hobby I have.
So speaking of which, how do you, for you, we like to ask in this podcast when we have a guest on, like, what's the catalyst that you're like, this is the medium I want to do? Like, is it, so you read as a kid and were like, I love these comic books? Or was it just
comics was, getting into comics was kind of weird for me because there was a lot of sort of things that in hindsight you could be like, oh, that was signaling to me that you're going to do this someday. But when it's happening, you don't think about it at all. So I didn't really, I had a lot of books as a kid, but far more like regular literature than comics. Yeah. And my first things with like the X-Men and the Ninja Turtles were from Scholastic that were illustrated children's books, not actually comics. But I have something where the Ninja Turtles tell you about global warming. Which,
really?
I think that was maybe my first like comic thing because it was comic characters. But it wasn't until 2006 that I started to care when I helped the Washington High School librarian start a comic book and anime club. And we brought in Tony Fleece and did a tiny comic convention.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he like drew a thing for me, and then I kind of forgot about it. And when I went to college, I really wanted to be an animator. I wanted to do 2D animation.
Yeah.
Chose Dakota State because they gave me a laptop. And they only wanted to do 3D stuff, and I didn't want to do that. So I kind of fell out of love with every program they offered me until we had to do an introductory course that made us make a student film. So it was like, I want to be a movie maker. I'm out. And I took off to Minneapolis, and we went to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, studied filmmaking for 1 year. It's tremendously expensive, and I struggled a lot to thrive in that city because I had no money and no community at the time. So I came back and finished everything at Dakota State. But while I was up there, I did a lot of storyboarding for our film projects because the way our teacher separated it up was instead of being like, okay, everyone's going to work on like 5 projects, it was the whole class has 5 projects, and each project needs like 3 movies made. So break up into like filmmaking groups and just figure it out. You have to have a director, a writer, a storyboardist, and stuff like that. But he didn't assign anybody anything. So it was kind of like you just volunteer. And once you did okay, the next group will be like, well, you did storyboarding last time. You want to do it again? Because you did okay. So that was kind of how jobs wound up working with that. And that was the first time I thought about like telling stories with comics. Because it's really similar. Even though the comic students at MCAD would be like, no, there's no storyboards and comics are the furthest thing from similar, which is a fucking lie.
There's a lot of similarities.
Why do you think Hollywood loves comics?
Yeah, and they have comic book artists to do storyboards for Gabriel Hardman, who did what's the book he did with his wife? He just did Green Lantern, Earth One.
He did Invisible Republic.
Invisible Republic.
Yeah. Oh, right on.
But he was the storyboard artist for Interstellar for Christopher Nolan. Like, he does a lot of storyboard work.
So that was literally what got me into it, but I still didn't consider it something that I could do professionally, even though around that time I was beginning to work on Little Alice. But I was still gung-ho about filmmaking, and I didn't really get that out of my system until 2014. But I was struggling through a small filmmaking group with some friends, and eventually it was like, comics is the same thing, but I can do it with way less money and by myself.
Right.
Or, with one colorist, as opposed to like a crew of 12 people and then actors on top of that and trying to pay somebody and fund this whole frickin' thing. And
so you bring up Little Alice, and I know we talked about not talking about it.
We can talk about it, but it's literally embarrassing. I'm okay with that, though.
It's not me wanting to embarrass you. It's is it the artwork that bugged you, and now that like you look at it from years of progressing, do you go, you know what, I want to get back into it, or is it just one of those things you're just like, I want to burn this even though I can't?
I don't know what my relationship with it is right now. I knew it was bad like halfway through making it.
Okay.
And that was because I read a book called Invisible Ink by Brian McDonald. It's about storytelling, and quite frankly, it should replace every storytelling piece of curriculum in public school because it's really fucking simple, because he developed like the Pixar method and stuff.
Oh, really?
So I work with the South Dakota Arts Council, and I teach kids how to make comics, and I just teach them his steps. And I usually give them this little story about how some guy named Brian McDonald was hired by a cartoon making company, and they wanted to make a movie, and he came back and he helped them figure out how to make Toy Story. And then all the kids were like, oh crap, this is real. So then they latch onto it. And that book taught me how to tell a story. So I don't know if it was necessarily the artwork. I can definitely agree. My artwork has progressed and has gotten better since then, but my storytelling was awful. And I was writing it like page by page. I didn't have a script. I kind of knew where it was going.
Yeah.
So it was just incoherent.
It's a lot of learning, right? Is that what it is? When you see it now, you see steps that you're like, I was learning there, so like I really I mean, we talked about it when Mike was on yours. He felt the same way about his early stuff, and when our podcast too, I feel the same way. I can't listen to those beginning episodes anymore because there's stuff I hear like the background noise. I cut it out now before I left it in, and just hearing that hissing in the background or like that echo.
So I got a podcasting question.
Yeah,
do you actually listen to your own episodes?
I do.
Okay, because I never even when we were doing Art Beat once a week, I was like, no, I'm not listening.
Well, here's the thing.
I was there for that.
I know these two don't, but I do because I edit the podcast and I want to make sure it sounds okay.
Sure, that's fine.
See, I think I'm a celebrity and I don't want to hear my voice.
You don't think Brad Pitt's ever seen Ocean's 11?
Hell no. He's got time for that. He's got like 12 kids.
But I do listen. I kind of listen in like the background because I know what we're talking about, and I'm just listening for the quality of it.
Sure.
There are a couple episodes I really do love, and I do listen to just to remember what we talked about, and it makes me laugh. If people in the podcast know, I have a horrible memory, so I'll be listening to episodes and be like, I don't remember any of this. This is brand new to me.
Right on.
So I'll listen to
I just remember the raw edit. That's all I need to remember.
So so like the early stuff when you like, it's like learning steps of it.
It is.
So you were doing that. Was it a lot of like, now you look at it and saying, I would never do that today, and that's the reason why you don't ever look at it? Yeah.
I don't really relate to it anymore because really, quite frankly, I was just trying to find some weird way to retell Buffy the Vampire Slayer in a way that wasn't way too fucking obvious. So I should have just been like, I'm going to redo Buffy, which I tried to do on YouTube. Please don't look that up.
People do that now. I mean, fanfic is a thing.
There was a brief time where I was like, I have nothing to do. I'm going to do a YouTube line read of this show.
Holy shit.
And I was thinking about getting like wigs and stuff.
Yeah.
And just doing, like every other shot where I'm on a different third. So you can tell I'm a different character, or like I'm wearing a hat or something. And I'm just reading every episode. I'm really glad I didn't.
Students really like that show.
Yeah. It's tremendously formative for me artistically, but I didn't get into it until I was
going to say, I read an interview with 605 Magazine that you did, and
that's all I fucking talked
about. A lot about Buffy in there.
Yeah.
Wait, and we've already discussed, you don't actually get any current things, but Did you actually get was it season 11 of Buffy
I've been getting the
Vampire?
continuing seasons.
So here's
of
the
Buffy
thing.
in comic form.
I had a hiccup in reading around season 9, and I don't dislike it. I do love it, and I do have newer books than that, but I haven't read them yet. And I don't know what's stopping me, because I do read plenty of stuff, but for some reason the Buffys have just been sitting on the shelf. And I still use them as like artistic reference, but I refuse to open one I haven't read yet, because I don't want to see something I don't need to see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're spoiling it.
Dark Horse's stupid Twitter and Instagram love to ruin things for me. We're like, oh, it's old news now. Everyone knows. I'm like, I don't know. Stop doing that to
I
me.
was gonna say I'm subscribed to him on Facebook all the time. They talk about Buffy.
Oh,
and
I
they
know.
Like, they like post panels and like
Yeah, they're like,
pages from the
you want to
comics.
see a huge spoiler?
But
Guess
that's
who's
their
back from the
number
dead
one,
now? And I'm
selling
like, oh,
book,
good.
So you
Can't be as bad as those Injustice spoilers that Marvel put out there for everybody.
Ooh, pretty bad.
Well, that's because I don't read that book. So you were going to be a filmmaker, and
Mm-hmm.
then you decided comics was a way to tell a story, and it was cheaper to do. Is that like you said you wanted to do 2D animation, and then it was
Yeah.
filmmaking, and then now it's comics?
Because I thought I was going to when you're 18, you're trying to figure out what you're going to do in the world. And I was like, I'm going to move to Burbank. I'm going to make the next big cartoon, like on Cartoon Network or something. This is going to be so cool. And, I'm not there.
But it's all driven from a storytelling
Yeah.
standpoint, right?
And I tell people quite frequently that I spent a lot of time in front of TV as a kid, and I think I just wanted to recreate that stuff that I was absorbing, whether it was live action or cartoon. But I don't want to have to deal with actors, so we'll draw it. And I think it really comes from that world of just like constantly consuming things. And in the 90s, it was kind of the Wild West of cartoons, where they were just making stuff, and it wasn't entirely about toys yet, and so there was just things. And some of it didn't last long. Like Project Geeker was kind of formative. There's only 6 episodes of that.
I was gonna. So in none of these interviews you talk about this, but it seems to me that you would be into just because this is my private life. Like the style reminds me a little bit of Simpsons.
Yeah,
Like itchy and scratchy kind of.
There was never a verbal explanation that my sister and I weren't supposed to watch it when we were growing up. But there's definitely that hint that like that's not for kids. Quit watching it. So The Simpsons has always had this charm to me.
Yeah.
I honestly haven't watched all of it. I did watch quite a bit when I had a desk job.
Well, I mean,
because you get 2
there's
monitors
too much
and
of
you
it.
get the second monitor, TV, right?
Right.
So, I can definitely see that.
Sorry, I was looking at Project Geeker. Yeah, I remember that TV show with the
right.
dinosaur and the girl with the ponytail and the weirdo
And it's got
kid.
basically the entire voice cast from Futurama.
Yeah.
Except it's made by the people who made Earthworm Jim, the cartoon, not the game. Which I have a
That's a good
beautiful print
cartoon.
of. Yeah.
I just, for like the last 10 years, I could not remember what the hell that show was named.
Sure.
That I would go,
figured it out.
I know the T-Rex. I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
All right,
I knew the girl with the ponytail. Don't remember her name.
Lady
Can't remember-
Macbeth.
Is that her name?
Yeah.
What's the T-Rex's name?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I don't think I was born yet.
There's a
I
website
don't
where you
think
can
you
watch
were.
it all, but it's so small because the resolution's terrible. So if you blow it up, it looks like shit. So you have to watch it in this little tiny window, and it's not good.
Oh yeah, well, even these pictures don't look that great.
No. It was one of those things that was kind of murdered when Cartoon Network started making their own content, and the Saturday morning cartoon just...
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. This is like everybody
Erupted.
from Futurama. You got
Yeah.
Billy West,
Yeah.
Jim Cummings. Yeah. So
There's Katie's skull on it.
that's what I was going to ask. No, he's still
It's kind of like the voice cast was basically Futurama and Rugrats smashed together.
Nice.
It's kind of weird.
And so when you want to do so, let's say you're going to write, you wrote Champions 4 already, right?
Mhm.
So Champions 5, it's a 6-issue series, right?
Yep.
It's also the same? Okay. So when you go to write that, what's the way you get inspired to start that process? Is it like, do you sit down and like, you have like something that triggers you, like a movie, a show?
So a lot of it's music
Yeah.
for writing because, I was one of those teenagers who didn't know how to interact with people very well.
Yeah.
So I deferred to music quite a bit, and I still do. And I steal a lot of concepts from it. So I referenced Oingo Boingo with This Is My Private Life. Danny from Champions is named after Danny Elfman, and his chapter, Clowns of Death, is an Oingo Boingo song.
Yeah.
So like it's pretty on the sleeve sort of thing of how I'm creating all the content. But I don't know. Are you guys familiar with Mark Wagner from here in town?
Yeah.
does
He
a lot
was
of-
at Rainbow just
Oh,
this
right
morning. I
on.
saw him.
Yeah. He did one of my covers for me for issue 1. And when I was doing Tide That Returns, I was participating a lot with, there was a artist critique downtown for a little while. And he's like, you should do something in print. I think it'd be really cool. Like the web's great and all, but I think your work would be really awesome in print. So why don't you go talk to Rainbow, see if they carry a zine, because they'll help you make a zine. And it's like, okay, I'll give it a whirl. And I went down to Rainbow and I brought my briefcase like with every page of everything I was working on at the time. And Brian used his poker face to look through everything, and I thought he was going to tell me it was shitty. And the first thing he said was, you don't want to make a zine. I've sunk through the floor. He goes, your work looks like you want to make a comic book. Go away and come back with a comic book, not a zine. Zines have a specific thing, and this is not it. And so that's what I did. And I had already been brewing ideas. I was like, well, I can take so the idea I had for the zine was, what if I did basically an anthology of weird little, I don't want to call them superheroes, but people with strange powers. They each get 4 to 6 pages, and then we never talk about them again. And I do a 20-page zine. Yeah. And so I was trying to develop the first one, and the 4 characters are the champions are the 4 characters that were going to be the first zine. And they were going to be just little vignettes essentially, and then you never see them again, and then we'll just do 4 or 5 more of the next book, 4 or 5 more of the next book, and I'm just going to steal stuff from music constantly. But when I found out I was making a comic because of Brian, I texted a couple of my friends that I had been working with at the web design company. God, it's been long enough. I'm sorry to forget what it was. And they were like, oh my God, let's do this. Let's turn this into it. And so I just spewed ideas to them via text for 3 or 4 days, and we refined stuff. And I was like, well, here it is. I know what I want to call it, because for me, the term champions is ripped off from Angel, the spinoff from Buffy, not from Marvel. I have no attachment to Marvel's champions. But there's all this lore about the people who are changing the world for the good, or the champions of the powers that be in Angel. I was like, I want to steal that. That's a great idea. And that's where What's
the choice to make it take place in Sioux Falls? Is it just being hey, I know this place already and I want something to happen here? Or?
Yeah, I was going to say, it really whittles down to the concept of write what you know. Yeah. And I've never been to New York. I mean, I've been to Rome for 2 days, but why the hell would I put something there? And step 2 was, there's a bit of pandering in there. Because when I do an event downtown and nobody knows what comics are, they buy it because they're like, oh, there's the Little Courthouse Museum.
I was going to say, I was reading, I was like, hey, there's the Little Courthouse Museum.
Right? That works on people.
It doesn't work,
let's
I guess.
do it.
I did. It worked on me. I was
if I'm at a con and someone's like, oh, it's like the Great Lake Avengers, and yeah, sure, fine, buy one. And, if that works, that works.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
So you're doing this 6 issues, and and you have an anthology coming out, right?
Yeah.
We talked about it before.
It's available on my website right now. A digital download. We're working on getting the prints. It's $4.99. I don't set the price. The comic company does. So that's cool. But we are one of 25 stories in there. Our story's called Dino Boy. I hope I'm not stepping on any toes if Lamont listens to this, but he really wants to do more of it. So there's a good chance I'll write a good handful of things, and we'll try to put together an actual Dino Boy and Rex comic. We're kicking around the idea of doing our own anthology of just stories with that character, as opposed to being we're going to tell you a narrative. We'll just give you basically vignettes. I guess we'll go back to that idea. So that it's a post-apocalyptic comic about a little boy and his best friend / pet, who's a tiny T-Rex.
That's awesome.
And they live in it's a post-apocalyptic Earth, but it's not sad. So
I was going to say, it looks pretty
the brief
kid-friendly.
The brief on
all ages.
Oh yeah, I want it to be absolutely all ages. And we simplified it where there's not a lot of text, so you could be 5 years old and not really understand how to read and enjoy it. And I think that's really beneficial.
You know what? That's actually pretty good, because today my son's turning 2 next week.
Sure.
And I wanted to buy something for him. I was telling Garrett this. I was looking at all the children's comics.
Yeah.
And they're all for people who are in 3rd or 4th grade that know how to read at that level. There's nothing really for somebody pre-5 to get them interested in reading.
Everything in our short is onomatopoeias for text. Nobody says anything. And not to spoil it, but to give you the short of it, they come across an abandoned farm, a la South Dakota, and in the barn is a tractor that still runs. And I'll just leave that with you, because it's only 4 pages, so it's hard to explain it without spoiling the whole thing. But so it's more about the adventure. We're not trying to doom and gloom anything, but give these little hints that something has happened to the world.
So you said there's possibly going to be more to that.
Yeah.
What about Dylan Jacobson? Let's see,
Sure.
like, how do you think, like, Champions is going to be 6 issues?
Yep.
And I have
Do
a
you-
question on that for the
Yeah.
6 issues. So, did it become 6 issues based on like you were writing out the script and you're like, this is going to take 6 issues, or were you always planning like this is going to be at least a 6 issue?
question.
The exact
Mini, or
way
is
I
it-
got to 6 is kind of weird. So when I was looking at giving everybody a few pages as a vignette, I was like, what if because in the very beginning I thought about keeping the characters separate enough where you could cut out their pages and make a whole book for each character.
Oh, cool.
It's still potentially plausible.
That's a cool idea for each issue to have their own.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So if, 6 times 6 is 36, so you could do a 36-page one-shot with each character.
Yeah.
Was my idea.
Okay.
I think that's basically what got me to 6. But when I was running around downtown doing art classes and stuff, I told people, well, if I'm going to take comics seriously and make something in print, I'm going to make a graphic novel. And most people took me by my shoulders and said, don't do that, because if you finish half the graphic novel, you have nothing to print. But if you decide to do a print series of like 10, 12 books, and you only do 6 of those 12 books, then at least you had 6 books come out.
Yeah.
I was like, well, fine. I'll take my idea and cut it up. And I was like, I think I can fit it in 6. So I wrote a beat sheet. So I have everything that happens from 1 to 6, but not the script.
Right.
And then when a book is finished, I move on to the script, which allows me to make sure that the beats I originally had still make sense, but stay true to what I was planning. And then I write that script, and then I draw it, and then I send it off to Travis, who colors it, and then we send it to Kablam, who prints it, then it goes on shelves. And that can take 5 months, mostly because coloring takes a lot longer than inking, and then printing depends on the company, on how fast they can get it out to us. So
It's one of those things that you finish issue 6 of Champions. Do you go, you know what? And it actually does well. Are you going to leave yourself open to be able to expand it, or is it kind of a closed-in 6-issue run?
So, have all 3 of you read the first book?
I did.
It's perfectly fair to say no.
We looked at it, but
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's a point there where Muggy, one of our characters, talks about the 600 years of content.
Yeah.
And when I do art shows of these comics, which I'm not Alex Ross. What the fuck am I doing in a gallery? No offense to myself. And but I did a gallery at Cafe downtown because that's basically where I started working on it. And someone came up to me and was like, so what happens over all these years, these like 600 years? And I was like, I don't know. That's none of my business. And I went home with that. Like, why would someone ask me that question? That's awful. And I'm the kind of person who I love stuff that it finishes. Like, it's done. Like, this story is over. Next thing. As opposed to being like, how can I milk this sucker for more?
Yeah.
But after doing that, I did come up with expanded universe content.
Cool.
And I have small beat sheets for some of that stuff. I try my best to stay away from it while I'm working on the core series because it's really hard not to have the new idea seem so sexy that you don't want to work on the current thing.
Oh, I get that.
You're like, oh, I want
And then you get
that.
distracted.
Yeah. So I do have ideas, but I want to try to keep things away from. I'm really sorry, DC. I love you so much, but where you get that feeling of I need to buy absolutely every book to know what's happening. I don't want to cause that problem. So I think if I can find a way to tell stories that happen in the same universe, but make them stand alone enough where you don't need the other things.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be rewarding for me to be like, these are one and done. They just all relate somehow.
Well, your idea of expanding actually makes me excited. Because
Sure.
then it reminds me of the Image Jupiter's Legacy and Jupiter's Circle, where the first 6 issues could have been their own thing.
Sure.
And then to find out there's more information that you're actually doing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I can make a book out of this too. It just makes
But
me
again,
excited.
you don't need it.
I was
You don't-
going to say,
and you don't need it.
when you were
Yeah.
saying when somebody asks you what happened during the 600 years, you're like, why would somebody ask you that?
Yeah.
That's this guy.
Sure.
Alex would be like, I wonder what happened during 600 years. I hope they come out with that content.
Well, you know what? I can tell you right now, I do have some content that's available online. I've decided... So Muggy's an immortal. It's something he didn't necessarily sign up for. And I decided he keeps a journal. So periodically on my Patreon, I send out a letter. I don't even post it as like a post that people can read. I send it to your inbox, like an email from my Patreon, and it's like titled from him, and it's one of his journal entries. And I guess I'll peel back the curtain on those a little bit because a lot of people probably don't know why the hell they get them. But they relate more to me than they do to the character. But when something happens in my life where I'm like, he might feel this way, like I come up with something from his perspective. I pick out a year in his timeline and I go for it. And I guess if we get down to expanded universe, the thing that really told me that it was okay to do that was I had never intended on telling anybody, but Tide That Returns and Champions were supposed to be in the same universe anyway.
That's pretty cool.
So,
my mouth just
right,
dropped.
so
like, that's exciting.
I don't want to get too much into future projects, but I have two things that I really want to do next. So one is Tide That Returns, and another thing is, to me, like the project, like this, the big thing, which it wouldn't be in Champions universe, and I'll just give you the current title since I already own the name for it, which is Kid Solomon. So we'll just kind of leave that linger.
I thought the name was The Project, and
That'd be cool too, right?
And my brain exploded. Going, that is the best title. Sorry,
The Project,
The Project,
the comic book. If you try to Google that, it'll suck.
Have you ever read Astro City?
No.
Astro City is exactly what you're trying to talk about, where it takes place in this whole universe. Each like book is about different characters,
right?
And you'll maybe see another character, so you know it's all in the same universe. But they're not. They're self-contained. You can just read one and be like, I don't know. I don't see anything else.
So the next Champions Universe thing that I would do is I want to finish Tide. Now I figured I would just take all the pages I had, and then continue it from there, and then push it out as a book and like a PDF, and then move on to the next thing, which I've got titles already like going out. I could fill my life with work for years. So I don't know if I want to just spill titles on the podcast, but we could if you want.
I mean,
and then I can let you guys speculate what they might be.
I mean, to be fair, it's one of those things I don't want you to spoil things for us.
Yeah.
That's something you want to keep close to the vest. I understand that. But I was just, you opening up and going, hey, these are things I've actually thought about. This is, and tying other loose knots for anybody who's listening going, you know what, I've been following you on Champions. I want to know more. Because you may be surprised who else is following you that just hasn't spoken up.
Well, that's very true. So the thing that made me really feel like it's okay to make stuff even if no one's saying anything about it was I had stopped doing Little Alice because there was jobs. Like I had shit to do. And I got an email from somebody who was like, hey, is this done? Like I was following it because I used to blog on that website too. It was just a WordPress, so I had a blog and the comic page. And he's like, I read all your blogs, I kept up with every page, and then it just stopped. What happened? And he goes, I was in the hospital when I found it, so I had a lot of time to go through everything, and now it's done. And so we had a brief email exchange. I was like, I'm going to get back to it. And then eventually I did end it. So unfortunately for him. But, it's one of those things where it's like, where were you, dude? If you would have just posted comments halfway through, I'd have been like, oh my God, I have a fan. So
it's that fuel. You need it. And we talked to us when Comic Genie was on your Mikey.
Yeah,
was that it's not that I need it to justify doing this. I like our podcast. We like doing it just because we do it. I'm sure your book you like doing it because you want to tell that story.
Yeah,
but it's nice to know somebody is reading it and being like, hey, this is good.
Yeah, well, and it stokes the fire.
Yeah, so
you can keep the fire going, but it's not going to be as big. Like when someone, especially, and I know that feeling, like your mom or your significant other, be like, "This is great." It's like you're going to tell me that anyway, Mom.
Yeah, you have to say.
But when somebody you've never fucking heard of is like, "Where'd that comic go?" You're like, "Oh no, I had somebody."
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, what drives you to like keep going on these? Because you said you do residencies, right?
Yeah,
you teach kids.
Yeah, and I just got on the Nebraska Arts Council to do the same thing.
Congratulations! So. That was a month ago, right?
Yeah. I got accepted a month ago. That's how I met Robert Hall from Marvel because Nebraska takes themselves way seriously. Where South Dakota was like, if you can get through the arduous application process, it's just yes or no.
Yeah.
Nebraska was arduous application process, then an interview, then we'll tell you later. And they were like, we're going to have a panel of 3 artists interview you. And I was like, oh, that's fine. Because around here, it's like you have someone who does painting and someone who does sculpture, and someone who does mixed media, which means just stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're gonna understand that I understand art, but they can't look at my comics and be like, this isn't a good comic.
Yeah.
Because they don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about like being an imposter. And I get down to Omaha. And they're like, well, you can wait in this little room here, have a sandwich and some chips, have some water. Here's a piece of paper with the people who are going to be interviewing you on it. There's like all the people from the board and then the 3 artists, and they got detailed information on them. The first artist had, 1 paragraph and it was mixed media. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready. I'm rocking this. And the second one was huge and it just said Robert Hall. And I was like, that name rings a bell, but I don't know why. And I get through it and it's like, he was a big writer throughout the early 70s. He worked for Broadway, brought some of the plays he worked for off Broadway, worked at a bunch of universities, got a job at Marvel. Then I started like shaking. I was like, oh my God, I cannot do this.
He knows what's up.
And it didn't click for me that he had worked on Champions until he said it. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm in the same room as somebody who I'm, there could be animosity here. He's like, you're fine, it's good. So when it was like, I'm being interviewed by somebody who was in the industry 30 years ago, that's a big deal. And then they brought me on board anyway. So that
means you're doing something
I've got
right.
some cred, right?
Yeah.
So
you're doing this, and you are working on that anthology. So what keeps you like? What's the thing that will make you be like, I got to work today, rather than being like, man, I'm doing a lot. Maybe today's a free day for me to like play some games or something. Like, what makes you be like, I got to work on comics today?
Accountability, I guess, is a question we're asking. What keeps me accountable for it? Patrons, having Patreons, really useful for that, because if I don't provide them content, why the hell are they supporting me?
Yeah.
Having a fiance who can come home and say, what did you do today? She doesn't mean it in a bad way, but, if I spent a whole day where it's like Breath of the Wild took my attention all day, I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
And then just,
To be fair, you can probably just go research.
Yeah. That's a bad excuse, but it's a true excuse, right? And, I could buy every comic in the world and write them off because of research, right? But I think ultimately it's the desperate, rattled guilt if I don't get something done. Like, I was explaining to my fiance on Friday where it's like, I wish I could have another Friday because I did a bunch of stuff. I hopped back and forth between like 3 projects, but I didn't get anything like done. And that just felt terrible. But I did get a lot done. I just didn't have anything finished.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, look at all these cakes I half made.
Yeah.
All the ingredients.
I got the ingredients. I made them halfway.
Right.
There they are.
That may be one of the greatest metaphors, by the way.
Right?
All these cakes I half made.
Then when you think about it, though, like, what if you bought the ingredients, you made the batter for them, and then you save them for later? They're still going to be cakes one day.
And that's a positive way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
So I think learning to manage that guilt, and then I think the thing that makes me somewhat successful around here is I'm really willing to be real. Like, I have bad days, and I have months where I'm like, how the fuck are we going to pay rent next month? But I don't want a plan B because that just lets me be lazy, where it's like, well, this isn't working.
You can give up.
I'll go back to the gas station or something. And I do have days where I tell people that, like, I just want to stop. This is hard. This is really hard. Because I had a con where I spent a lot of money getting there and I didn't sell anything, and it was hard. It's not easy, but it's a part of the career. So,
So like you said, you would go to these cons, and that maybe that's also part of the accountability, being like, I got to have something to show off.
Well, and like if you go to every con once, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
But when you go back a second time and you're like, oh, I'll definitely have another book next year, and you don't.
Yeah.
What did you do?
And they're like, hey, you're the same thing you had last year.
Yeah.
When you go to cons, you talked about before that when you were a kid, like you were. Did you use the word socially awkward, or what did you use?
Well,
socially.
Yeah, that's
close to the.
Yeah,
the
I would
best.
say that's a good word. I mean, it come out of like awkward, unusual bullying in middle school. So I decided to be an asshole through high school, which made things harder. Where I wanted people to like me, but I didn't realize that I wasn't letting people like me.
So how do you be your own cheerleader at those cons and be like, hey, here's my stuff, I'm great? Because is that still part of you being like you talked about before when you go to these things, like and you see Robert Hall and he's like...
Yeah, and you're like, holy crap, this is scary.
Yeah.
I think part of it is just being real with myself. Like, if I can just tell somebody, like, there's a lot of people here, this is fucking scary, then that's okay. Being your own cheerleader is a great question. I'm glad to say it's not alcohol that does it, but it doesn't hurt. No, I don't drink before a show, but just trying to get out of your own way, I guess. You got to get up. And,
do you got to just jump off the cliff and hope it works?
Yeah. You gotta, falling with style.
You got to do.
You've seen Toy Story. You just do that.
Falling with style.
Life is just that.
I was going to say Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. You got to jump off and hope you live.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I was thinking of a lemming just running off that cliff. So
those rarely make it.
I was going to say that might be a bad one.
I was being negative to an extent, but
yeah.
Did they go extinct?
No.
What am I thinking of?
a lot of other things.
Okay.
One of the things that really helped when I started doing all this was like I lived alone and I didn't have anybody relying on me. So it's
Yeah.
like if I fail, no one fails but me, right? I'm not hurting anybody. Big deal. So just go do it. And I think something I learned in my mid-20s is if you can analyze a choice that you want to make, and if you can realize that if the worst thing that happens is nothing changes, then just do it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if things stay the same, being the worst possible outcome, then go do it. Because if you're too afraid to do it, things are going to stay the same anyway. So like
When you teach these classes, I realize, are you more talking to kids?
yeah.
Honestly, if you're talking to like any like high school related people, that would be just what you just said now
Yeah.
would be top notch.
Yeah,
You're not going
absolutely.
to hurt anybody. Just if you're too afraid to do it, don't. Just do it.
Yeah.
You have a podcast I was listening to one episode earlier today.
Oh my god.
The Good
I
Fight?
need to record some more, yeah.
But that's exactly, isn't that why you talk
It
about
was-
the good fight is
yeah.
like the fight of keep on going.
It is. I stole it from Angel. Damn it. See, the
It's
person
kind of making me want to go back and watch Buffy. And
it shouldn't be Marvel that tries to sue me. It should be Joss Whedon. He's like, damn it, you're taking all my ideas. Yeah, and that's what it's really about. I think that's what makes me successful is being able to talk about that.
And is that something you, when you go to these schools, like is that part of the process? You're not only showing them how to do comics, but like
Yeah.
have that confidence.
Yeah,
in yourself.
and one of the ways that I exhibit that at the schools is we usually get 5 days. And I'm going to make them do a 6-page comic book.
Oh yeah,
Fucking luck, kid.
6 pages on my desk. You got 5 days.
Yeah, well, and sometimes they only get 3 because we're going to spend the first 2 doing something else.
Yeah,
Like every residency I do, day 1 is storytelling.
yeah,
Because I feel like they can use that in the classroom. I can't guarantee it to a teacher that they're going to use how to make a comic in the classroom, but they can use storytelling and they're going to kick ass with it as long as they take what I have to say to heart. And then we'll get into comics after that. So sometimes I get 4, sometimes I get 3 days, but I'm like, here's your comic. I take Bristol board, 11 by 17 Bristol board, fold 2 pages in half, staple them together like a comic book, but they're 8 by 11 at that point. And then I'm like, all right, the inside front cover is page 1. I need 4 panels per page. You have 6 pages to do on Friday because then I leave. And
how old are these kids?
I work with as young as kindergarten. When I'm doing that age, we don't do the
Right,
the
that's
comic,
a little
but when I do the comic at least 4th grade,
Okay.
and up, and instilling the confidence is just you have to lay something down on that page because you only have so much time to get this done. So put something on it. I don't care what it is. My goal is that it makes sense. I can't tell you, well, your artwork's not very good because you're in 4th grade. You'll get
Yeah.
better at it.
You can, but you be a dick.
Yeah. So
who knows?
That's
So
cool.
somebody might give you a comic, and he's the next Alex Ross, and he's like, look
Yeah.
at this. But then again, if you follow Alex Ross on Twitter or Facebook,
he shares a lot of his old crap.
he shows all his old
Sucks.
crap, and it sucks. It's
Yeah.
not good at all. It's like stuff you do see in elementary school, and he's like in middle school. Like it looks like stick drawings.
Yeah.
And then he puts it next to he draws like a stick man Superman, and he puts it next to his work now and be like, look and see. Like it.
Yeah.
It's not like you come out of the womb and be like, man, I'm Alex Ross. I'm gonna draw.
You sure
this
he's
cover."
not just paying some 5th grader down the street for those?
His nephew Jimmy Ross.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, draw me Superman. I'm going to show other people off how much it sucks.
Don't worry, you're making money.
Don't worry, I'm going to say it's me. So he's also stealing artwork. But
Licensing agreement. He didn't know what he signed.
I think maybe that's a hurdle people can't get over is that they think they're going to put pen to paper and be like, look like Alex Ross,
Yeah.
they won. Rather than look like a stick drawing.
Well, and people in this gesture won't be captured in a podcast, but people often come up to me like, I don't know how to get from my head to my hand. I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, well, it takes practice. And so I often tell like those elementary school kids, how many of you in here play sports? And most of them raise their hand. I'm like, what do you have to do every day in sports? And eventually someone says practice. I mean, it's the same fucking thing
Yeah.
with art. So go do that.
You got to work on fundamentals. Like you said,
Yeah.
you tell storytelling.
Yeah, and shape. If you can figure out what shapes things are, if you can draw objectively, you could draw anything in the world. But if you're going to be subjective and be like, this face doesn't look right, then it's never going to look right. You have to tell me what shapes the face is made out of. Otherwise, it's going to suck.
Yeah. Let me
So-
ask you a question about storytelling, because I do like when people come on here asking them a question about this.
Yeah.
These two are probably going to zone out for a second. But I am interested. So you teach these kids storytelling. It's probably the very basic fundamentals, right?
Dick move.
Yeah.
But how do you, in your work,
Yeah.
get over, like you said, you watch a lot of Buffy and like you get inspiration like and from other stuff. How do you make it and not be like word for word copy something?
Ripping something.
Yeah, where you're like, I got to put my own twist. Like, what's the thing where you're like, able to, and I said this with Mikey was on, like remix it to be like, this is Dylan Jacobson's book.
Sure. That same concept of like being real about struggles and like the good fight and stuff. I put all my characters through those situations. Quite frankly, by the end of issue 3, you're going to assume that all of these characters in this book have the worst lives ever, and regardless of whatever powers or special things they have, they're not better off than any of us.
Yeah.
So I think that focusing on that and just drawing from actual experience. So writing what I know, sort of thing, like life's about relationships. So I was telling a lot of people yesterday that sure, there's superpowers, but my book's about the people, not the powers. And Marvel likes to tout that stuff too. But I think if you can look at the relationships you have in your own life and draw things from that, then it's going to be far more original. And if you can take the two things you love and smash them together in a way someone else hasn't, it's going to be original in and of itself. So I think that's okay.
So you were talking about, I'm sorry. This is my private life.
Yeah.
Right. You said originally it was like word for word and kind of it's more realistic, right?
Yeah.
And then it changed into this character now.
Yeah.
Who, like I said before, looks kind of like Simpsons.
That bunny rabbit.
Yeah,
thing,
the bunny
right?
rabbit thing.
Right. There's a story behind that. So, the Oingo Boingo song that it's named after is also the name of the album. And there's this weird, like, psychedelic cat person on the album that's like all excited by a Christmas tree, and there's a lizard under the Christmas tree. And I was like, I love that cat thing, and I want to draw that. I was like, but if I just rip that off, I can't use it for anything. So what would I change about it? And I flashed back to high school when I was in that comic book club, and there were way more anime kids there, and everyone was like, let's watch Fruits Basket, this is amazing. And I was like, oh boy. And I wasn't necessarily into it, but being someone who was running it, you participate. And we started doing like a forum based role play where you're just like writing crap at each other. We're like, all right, we're gonna do a Fruits Basket one where all our Chinese zodiac characters. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that anime. It's ludicrous. And so we had to do research on our zodiac. I'm like, I'm a dragon, 1988 dragon. Cool. I've known that because all those placemats at all those restaurants all my life have said that. And then somebody who was way more into the culture than me was like, well, we got to make sure that you know exactly when you were born, because Chinese New Year isn't, the typical New Year. So I think 1988 Chinese New Year's was February 12th, which was like 7 days after my birthday. 5 days after my birthday. So I was a bunny rabbit. Like, all right, we're going to take this cat thing from the Oingo Boingo album. I'm going to make it a bunny rabbit. And now it's me.
And so that's you, because that's your sign. That's what I was going to... So you twisted things so that way it's not 100% realistic. Any interest in ever going back to telling something like super personal and making it realistic?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah?
I think when I have more mental time for that.
Yeah. That would be something where it's like, if you're going to put yourself out there, you want to make sure that it's like, when you say mental time, you mean like that it is not like perfect. That's a wrong word to use when you're being creative. But as much as you can make it perfect, right?
Yeah, and make sure that I'm being as real as possible with it. As opposed to just being like, I've got 2 hours on a Sunday, let's see what I can do. Because that's really how that comic works. Like every Sunday morning I meet with a few friends and we draw from like 8 to 9 to noon. So it's like, I've got this amount of time to get as much as I can. And then I'm done. And then I upload this thing every Monday morning, and I have what I have.
I was curious about that, because there's some people who write for Marvel or DC, and they're happy doing Batman, Spider-Man, and never doing anything about themselves, doing somebody else's character. Or even if they were to be like Robert Kirkman, who's doing Walking Dead and doing Invincible. Well, R.I.P. Invincible, but but and doing that kind of work and nothing that's really serious. Or you have somebody like Jeff Lemire who literally does personal comic books back to back to back. Yeah. So like,
and superhero stuff.
Well, he's that's what I mean.
He's
like
a monster though.
Yeah.
So the Champions, it is. I when I was reading it, I did feel like it was kind of personal to you.
It is, yeah.
But it's like, but they have cool powers. You know what I mean?
They do,
like, what if they had powers?
Yeah, right.
And so, what's the for you? What's because we always talk about on the show. There's a what's that book called? The Moonshine book. It's called Moonshine.
It's Moonshine.
Are there vampires, right?
Nope, werewolves.
So there's a book called Moonshine where they're moonshiners, but then they're like, what if they were werewolves too?
Sure, yeah. Right? Yeah.
And
is it good?
I always say
really good, actually.
Okay, I'll have to pick it up.
I always say
it sounds really ridiculous.
He's bummed because it's about the prohibition, but it's about werewolves too.
But I'm always wondering, like, where's the thing where you're like, you're writing. Well, I want to write about the Moonshiners, and you're like, but let's add some werewolves. Like,
yeah.
Is that because you want to have it more appeal, or is it just because you're like, I want to write about some superheroes?
That's a good question. I didn't set out to have more appeal. I mean, I guess I didn't understand how to grasp for appeal and stuff like that. I set out to represent like the parts of myself that I identified with the particular music I was relating it to. So we'll just give the whole behind the curtain. Danny is Danny Elfman. Michael is Michael Stipe. Alex is a very small artist named Alex Johnson. And Muggy is, if you guys watch The Adventures of Pete and Pete, the guy from the fake band Polaris on there.
I did watch that.
Wow, that's deep. I'm on their live CD. Like their picture or their album from 2014 when they did their first live tour. They did a CD. And they put my face on it. So we have a relationship.
Nice.
So I put their face in my comic book, right? So that's maybe my crowning achievement in my life. So everything's downhill from here. But so there are reasons I relate to particular songs and things. So this is sort of like that lens of those songwriters, those people. I certainly hope it's not offensive to any of them because I know a couple of them know it exists. But
that's a weird. Now that you're saying that it's based on people, now obviously you've based characters on yourself, but these are based on other people. Obviously, Danny Elfman, like he's not concerned about how people think about him.
No, and he's not one of the people who knows this is out there because I have no idea how to talk to him.
But if you know a certain character and you base it off, or like and they know like that's based off of them, are you always worried that like you don't want to represent them in a wrong way, or you're like that's a total? You're like the base, but you're not the
they're not the same people. So I'm not really worried about misrepresenting them, and I feel like I would handle them as respectfully as possible anyway. But I guess if we look at it from I came from filmmaking, those are the people I would cast for this. If I was going to pull a Kevin Smith and just write with someone in mind and not know if I'm going to get them or not. Which is a dangerous way to write a film.
Or when he did Clerks, he based it on his friends. Like that was him and his friends, what they did when they were in the stores.
Spike Jonze writes John Malkovich with John Malkovich in mind. And what if he didn't want to do that movie? What if you just change all the occurrences of John Malkovich and make it like being Brad Pitt? I don't think that would have been as good of a movie.
I don't think that movie works if it's not John Malkovich.
No, I don't think so either.
Well, I was asking because so like I'm writing a story right now, right? And it is some people in the story are like based on people that I know, right? But I don't want to. There's always this fear for me that I'll write them to be like, "Hey, that's me," and I don't like the way the choices that character makes,
right?
But you have to be able to be like, yeah, like it's based on you because like I can hear your voice in my head, and like I know how you react to things, but it's not you,
right? Well, and
it's
then
only inspired,
And the other big thing is, I don't know if I honestly can make up a person without using reference material.
How do you?
Like when I'm drawing somebody. So if I can be like, oh, he's going to look like this guy, then it's way easier than being like, I have to invent a whole new face I've never seen before.
And I think that's part of what makes characters hard to make is that people are so complex for you to be like, I'm going to make a whole person. It's like, that's a lot of work because
it is.
There's so many nuances and stuff like that. But if you can base it off somebody like you said you have or yourself. Then you could be like, I know how I would react to this or how my friend would react to this.
Right.
Or at least enough to be like, I can write about it and then the stuff I don't know, I'll fill in with other stuff. And
right.
that's where they change, right?
When we were talking about like grasping for that like popularity or whatever, I didn't realize that having 4 main characters was going to give people the opportunity to have a favorite one. Because if I had done something with one character, then I would have people say like, I like him or I hate him. That's it. Whereas I have people who are like, this one is my favorite character for XYZ reasons. And I think that's really rewarding because now I don't have to worry about not pleasing everybody because everyone will like one of them.
Is that cool?
That's awesome, right?
Do you have a fan favorite for a lot of people out of the 4?
I was going to tell you actually when you came on here, I like Danny.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, I think Danny resonates with men more often than any of the other characters because guns. But why do you like Danny?
It's not the guns. Okay. I like that he wears a clown nose.
Oh, right.
That, like, he went through this thing with clowns. And he's like, I'm going to wear this nose.
It's going to get pretty fucking real in issue 4.
Okay. Because it's almost like, Batman. He's like, what do I fear? And he's like, I fear bats. I'm going to become fucking
I'm going to dress like a bat, right?
And this guy's like, these clowns,
They're the worst thing ever. I'm going to wear one of the noses.
I'm going to be them and go after them as them. And I think that's pretty cool. Actually.
Yeah. Have you ever listened to the song? It's amazing.
No, I haven't.
So Where am I?
Let's be honest. Even though you say like there's a lot of stuff inspired, and you're like you feel like you're ripping off them. I know Danny Elfman, but I know he was an Uncle Boingo, but I really don't know that band. Mm-hmm. So like none of this stuff like so I didn't even know this. Now I'll go and listen to those songs. But
yeah. Oh no, and that's perfectly fair. So I picked up a small comic in Omaha when I was hitting up some comic book stores, and it had like a track listing in the back of songs. And my fiance was like, "Oh my God, are you still planning? This is big news here. Are you still planning on doing a trade paperback of Champions when they're all done?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." Yeah. And she's like, "You should put a track listing in the back, or like after every book, like here's the tracks for the next book, sort of thing." And so I'll probably do that.
Jeff Lemire does that for Royal City. He makes a playlist on Spotify.
Right. Yeah, I have a Spotify playlist, and I've shared it a few times on our Facebook.
Oh, you do?
Does the Realm do that too?
Yeah, Realm does it. They only do singles.
Okay.
I know what I'm doing after this because I didn't know. I guess I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I'll send it to you over Twitter.
Okay. So like, it is really that concept of Danny because that you can take something tragic in your life and be like, well, I'm going to use this as like motivation.
Sure.
And when you're saying that you kind of base it on real life things being real, that is something that's like a nice message to take out of there. Be like, yeah, something bad happened to me, but you can use that to keep going.
Yeah, and that is a big part of it. I think, especially being in your 20s. Now that I'm 30, I talk about like what 20s were like a bunch.
Okay, I'm sorry not to cut you off. The whole time I actually thought you were younger than me.
How old are you?
I'm 28. And I realize you're only 1 year older than I am.
I'm 30.
But, well, I'll be 29 this coming year.
Okay. Anyway, these are these realistic things that we
I look like a little kid.
In all honesty,
I look like a little kid.
You look in between probably Garrett and I.
Sure.
25.
Really, I figured you two were the same age, which is about right. So.
Yeah, but my hair makes me look like I'm 30
well,
years
you
old.
can't stop genetics.
I know.
No, these things happen. Mine will all fall out soon, so don't worry about it.
Yes, but see, you can at least grow facial hair.
Everyone wants me to... So the sideburns are part of like the character I play in this world we live in, and so I'm afraid to get rid of them. But if I go bald, I think I have to shave them off because that'll fucking look silly, right?
Dude, you'd look bitchin'.
No, sideburns and bald?
You can keep sideburns.
Oh my
and
God,
bald.
everyone says
you can always
that.
keep the tufts.
You gotta keep
insane.
it.
Sideburns into the tufts.
Be the opposite of like Wolverine. Yeah, he's got the full head of hair with the mutton chops. Dude, just grow this.
Sure.
And then grow in like this. See, I'm jealous.
Okay. I'll take your advice. When the hair falls out, we'll talk.
Well, by that time, my hair will be white. So.
You know what? Start early. Just shave it off. Let's go.
My fiance would lose her mind.
Oh God.
Because I was bald a long time ago, like 2008, and I did that out of choice. I showed her pictures. She's like, "No, never do that again, never." And I'm like, "But it's probably gonna fall out." A lot of my family members, even on my mom's side, losing their hair.
Yeah.
So I was like, what are we going to do? And she often says, well, I'm going to leave you when you're bald. And she's got a beautiful sense of humor. Sometimes I don't know if it's a joke anymore.
I was going to ask you, are you sure it's a joke? Is it maybe she's just saying it so nicely to you?
Yeah.
Catherine, right? Is her name?
Yeah.
I think I talked to you guys at Siouxpercon last year.
Yeah, you probably
were there,
did.
right?
And if you email her email says she's a manager for me. So I get emails from her sometimes for whatever reason, and I'm like, a Champions manager? That's weird. I'm like, oh yeah.
How does that work? Is it something that
when
was she a fan and then she?
No, we met at work. And
I mean, not to get too personal.
I introduced her to comics by and large, and she's really into it now. But no, when I confessed I had worked at a call center for a while, and it caused what I like to compare to maybe a mild PTSD, where I hate being on the phone, beyond all fucking
I was
reason.
telling this guy today, I was like, that you don't want to go down that route.
No, it was the worst. I did it for 2 years working for a scam. So it was a place where people call you and freak the fuck out. And I'm like, dude, it wasn't me. It was the people I worked for. And so that caused a lot of trouble. But she's like, I'll make some phone calls and call comic book stores. But I'm not going to say I'm your girlfriend. I'm going to say I'm your manager. That sounds way more legit. So her email says that. Anyway, to get back to the question about favorite characters, the colorist for issue 1 is not Travis. It was Galatia Barton. Okay. And she decided to pursue a second degree and respectfully step back from coloring issue 2. And I was like, I'm probably just going to work with the next colorist for the rest of the books. We have some continuity, or for the rest of the series. And she was cool with that. But she was working on that while she was up at Dakota State and like sitting in the student union coloring my pages. And there became a small, weird subculture of people who were into the comic before issue 1 ever came out because of her working on it. And she's like, there's fan fiction out there already. And I was like, no. No one's read it. Like, I haven't really like sat down and read it. And She's like, no, everyone loves the two Michaels. There's even like gay fan fiction of them. And I was like, you're fucking kidding. She's like, no, everyone loves them because there's this whole thing about like being with yourself.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is insane. So he's probably the most popular character, but the people who don't like him really don't like him. So
I didn't really have an opinion either way.
So yeah.
But so how does that feel though? Somebody they read your stuff and were like, I'm going to make my own because I want to hear more of their stories.
Yeah, do it. I want more. Like that's how you build a community, right?
Would you ever? You were talking about before this expanded universe, and sometimes they do this in comics. Would you ever let somebody else run with your thing and be like,
yeah? So one of my dreams is someday I don't have to draw all of them.
Yeah,
I can draw like the thing I'm working on, and then manage the things that somebody else is working on. So. I have a wonderful Google spreadsheet of the timeline for Champions. It goes back to like the Tide That Returns, and then all the way up to like 2300 or something like that. Because I have a lot of beats in this huge universe that I want to cover, and I have like when we get to like 2300, I have a title, and then like somebody who should draw that. And then there's a little tiny script in a folder somewhere. So I do have concepts where I'm like, I'm not the person who should do this one. And I think that would be really rewarding if, whether Patreon helps me afford it, but being able to pay somebody else to just draw the book.
Just drawing, or would you let somebody do the script?
That's a good question. I think if somebody could actually come to me and say, like, I know enough about the universe and I could, like, quiz them on it, then yes. But when IDW got Buffy, they got Angel. They didn't get Buffy. But when they got Angel, they shat all over it because many of them had never watched the show.
That's what I fear about IDW. They're all licensing. It's all general concepts of knowing who these characters are.
And then the worst thing ever was when they started getting people who knew the series. The Dark Horse buyout was happening, but the people who knew the series introduced some new characters who were phenomenal. But IDW did not release the characters that were created at IDW to Dark Horse, so they're just gone. And it's like, so much potential gone forever.
Well, I was curious about it because there's Greg Rucka does Lazarus. Mm-hmm. There was a mini series while they were on a break called Lazarus X plus 66, which Greg Rucka wrote the stories for, which you kind of have for this extra material, like the concepts. But he didn't write the scripts for it. He did the art. Like he got it's a whole different team.
Sure.
Like would that feel like you said? Does that feel kind of scary? Being like, maybe you might mess this up. Like you wouldn't need to know somebody that's really into it.
I mean, if they could prove they're really into it, and I could arguably say like this person, like either the person writing it has the writing chops, or the people drawing it have the writing chop or drawing chops, then I think I'll be okay with it because the less work I have to do, the better.
Yeah. I mean, it's still your thing come to life.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, I think the least I would do is do the beats for it. So I know it fits in the universe. And then they can write the script. I think I'd be okay with that, yeah.
So I
just don't know who would want that right now. Like, I haven't had anybody say, like, I want to write one of these. But if somebody really wanted to,
somebody's writing fan fiction. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's people obviously out there that want to see more of these characters and that have written more. So
I mean, if it's I have no problem with what they've created, but I probably wouldn't release a comic that was pornographic.
Yeah.
So if they're gonna go, if they're gonna go that route,
they can black label or something.
Yeah. They can leave that on their fan fiction websites, and I'm fine with that.
I was curious on how like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee felt. Like they made their concepts for these characters, and then when they were done, other people wrote them.
Yeah. Like probably like, how come they're not speaking what they're doing anymore?
But I'm going to punch you in the face.
But how's that? I wonder how that feels being like, that's not my Tony Stark. And
sure.
And you would be like, that's not my Danny. Like,
yeah, but I hope you get that feeling of like, that one's better than mine. That's what I would hope for. Like, damn.
You're right. Yeah, I guess
damn, they drove that guy home.
I'm thinking the negative right now. Be positive. Sure. Like, well, yeah, what if this like, man?
Because I do very little dictation over the color. So when I write the script, I will say like, this person's hair is blonde or something along those lines. But if I don't say that, I don't care what the colorist does with it because I trust that the colorist knows what the hell they're doing. So I get a really exciting experience when the first colored pages come back because I'm like, holy shit, is that my comic? Because was not ready for that.
How does it work when you and Lamont did Dynaboy and Rex? How does that work collaboratively? Did you write the script and then really dictate stuff? Like, did you write your scripts like to the T, or is it like kind of open up?
So back when I was unemployed, I read Save the Cat, which is a screenplay writing book.
Yeah.
And it's about how to write a screenplay that someone buys. Doesn't mean it's a good one. It's just one that will be sold. And turns out that most people in Hollywood who buy scripts read certain pages and nothing else. And you could research Good Will Hunting to learn more about that. But anyway, so one of the things that the author in there said was just like, write a bunch of pitches. Write tons of pitches. And so I would write like a handful of pitches every day and then go to the mall. And then wait for somebody at a store like JCPenney to be like, can I help you? Be like, I don't need you to help me find anything, but would you watch this movie? And then if they said like, that sounds cool, you check mark, that was a good idea. If everyone you talked to that day at the mall said no, then you don't worry about that one. So when we got into that, we decided we were going to do that anthology. The concept was fantasy. And that was super open. It wasn't like, has to be two cowboys. It could be anything that you can fit the word fantasy around. So I told Lamont, I have 23 good movie pitches. I'm going to bring to you the 4 that I think are best for a children's story. You will pick the one you like, then I will write a story. We will tweak the story, then I will write a script. So the script that he had is like, everything is in it. It was super detailed. It was the most detailed script I've ever written because someone else had to draw it. And that was actually the most difficult part for me because when I'm writing Champion, sometimes I will deliberately leave it vague because I'm like, I know what that's going to be.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Have you ever read an Alan Moore script?
No.
It's very like, this is like this, his hair is like this. It's very like down to the T what you need to do so that way the artist is not really part of that process. It's like, draw it like this.
But when we were doing character creation in the middle of all of it, what I did was we just had a Dropbox folder that we shared, and I was like, here's a bunch of characters that I feel like can inspire you, and like we started with like Kid Goku and stuff, and a few different Pokemon for the T-Rex, and then he dropped in a bunch, and then Travis included a few, and we're like, this is what the world feels like. Now you make the world. And when the first few Dino Boy sketches came through, it was like the second or third one was it.
Yeah.
Like it didn't take a long time.
It's because I've been reading a lot of comic book scripts, and like Greg Rucka does like the opposite.
Sure.
He'll be like, hey, on this page, this is what I'm thinking about, but do whatever you want. It's literally what that page says for that panel.
Yeah.
And he just lets his artist do whatever.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I
think
guess
you have to have a good relationship with the artist first.
And so you're using Lazarus, and that's
no, this was a Captain America.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Fallen Son. It's when Captain America goes to fallen soldier's funeral, and it's about him like at the end of the. So here's the thing. Here's the thing where he's like, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's a scene where they show up at the Air Force Base, and Greg Rucka wrote, "Hey, here's some reference pictures. I kind of think about it like it should look like this, but do whatever you want."
Yeah.
And then you look at that panel, and it clearly is somebody like the artist is clearly being like, just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But then, however, there are certain parts where like this needs to be like this. Mm-hmm. So is that kind of how that was? Like it's like
Well, and then I think if either of the people who've colored for me could say something bad about working with me, is that in my script there will be parts that say, leave that for the colorist.
Yeah.
So in issue 1, there's the part where the two Michaels split.
Yeah.
I just drew their faces kind of coming apart, and I was like, the colorist will figure out the background. Like that was literally the script. And they knew that the palette at that point is purple. Everything for him was just purple everywhere. And so I remember Galatia being like, that was tough. You made me make a lot of decisions, whereas before it was just like a coloring book.
Yeah.
And then in issue 3, I have a wall in a building where I was like, that's going to have some sweet graffiti on it. The colorist can do that part. And so Travis was like, I don't know what the fuck to put on that wall. You're kidding me. I was like, I don't know. I thought you'd like give you some license. Like, do whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
You know.
Do other characters have their colors? Do they each have a color?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say I noticed the Michael purple. Is Danny red?
Yeah, Danny would be red.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Muggy is blue, and then Alex is gold and silver.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Waiting for that color orange.
Yeah, I love orange. I'm wearing an orange shirt. I'm wearing a Buffy shirt today. But I don't have an orange character yet.
Oh, the only reason I bring it up, purple, red, and blue, and then orange would be the turtles.
Oh, fuck. I didn't even think about that.
That's the reason I brought up orange.
It should have been orange. Alex should have been orange. I didn't do that, though. Silver and gold.
A little twist. You didn't go all the way.
It's fine. You're referencing them, but maybe Mikey wasn't your favorite.
Maybe I did it subconsciously because, man, I was all about those turtles when I was a kid.
Are you a guy that's, speaking of the turtles, are you only interested in doing your own stuff, or would like, if IDW, right? If they came to you, were like, hey, you want to write a Turtles miniseries?
And so, like, a year or two ago, someone asked me, I was like, I just want to do my own stuff right now.
Yeah.
I think if a major company like IDW was like, would you do this? I'd say yes.
Yeah.
Because and I've brought that up a few times in a couple talks before where people are like, would you do like a cover for Marvel? It's like part of me wants to be like, no, I don't have time for that. But if Marvel calls you, what do you say?
Yeah.
You say, yup.
Say if Marvel's giving you the cha-ching.
You say yes, and you
I'd be
figure
like,
out what
hell yeah.
time you're going to have to do it.
Yeah, you just make that work. So I think I would be like,
You know, it used to be a thing in the business that you did your own stuff to get a job there.
Yeah.
And nowadays it seems like you get a job there to do your own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people that got big in, like Rick Remender, Jeff Lemire, like they started Scott Snyder. Like they go now and just do their own stuff. Like they want to do their own stuff.
Yeah.
Is that? I wonder if that's because you're doing, you Patreon. You have a way to make money there. You have Comixology. You can put your own comics on there.
Right. We got events and arts councils and stuff.
You're like printing your own comics.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Do you think? Because I hear this all the time. Do you think right now it's easier to do your own thing than it ever has before? Or is it still difficult?
It's easier to start it, but there's so many people who can start it that it's difficult to get the traction.
Oh, because of so many people trying to tell stories out there.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to imagine, it's like there's this mountain you have to climb in comics. Well, the mountain is just as hard as it used to be, but now everybody has equipment except it's raining.
Yeah.
So
now the mountain's crowded.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it hard.
And it's slippery.
Yeah.
Whereas before it just was big.
Yeah.
So no one wanted to do it. But yeah, there's just so many people. And that's the thing that kind of freaks me out about webcomics is it's just shouting into a void. Like everyone's making
webcomics. We talk about it all the time on this show that comic books seems daunting. And I was like, just start somewhere. Webcomics for me is so daunting because there's so many.
I don't read any.
What do you I just want to say, what do you read?
I don't.
I was like, there's so much. It seems like everybody has a webcomic.
I don't even read Penny Arcade anymore.
I was going to say, I used to read Penny Arcade and I stopped just because it's like, it's so much.
Yeah, too much.
Too much.
No, I don't know. Our Super Adventure on Webtoons is okay. It's a relationship comic. It's kind of funny. There's cats and farts. I don't know. And it doesn't mean anything, so you don't have to start anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't really read it. My fiance reads it and be like, look at this cool one, and show it to me, and it shows up on Facebook from time to time.
Speaking of about a bunch of people trying to climb the mountain at the same time.
Yeah.
So what do you try to do to try to get up that mountain first? Like, what do you do? A lot of social media push? You go to cons, right?
Say I'm really, when it comes to social media, I'm best at Facebook. Doing a thing called Superpower Showdown right now. I'm going to draw 2 superheroes coming up in the next few days. So yeah, it's going to be good because the last 2 after we get out of the semifinals, I have to draw new characters for them.
One of your polls just ended before you got here.
Yeah, it did. So I do quite a bit of stuff on Facebook. I go to as many cons as I can. I don't go to a lot yet. They're expensive. Going to a con is expensive, and if you're going to go and not make any money, then it's hard to go to another one. So
do you, and this might, if you don't want to answer this, is fine.
Yeah,
do you have to pay to get in, or did they just ask people?
So I actually asked Siouxpercon, like, what's it take to be one of your guests?
Yeah.
And I said, I will still pay for my table, but I want you to treat me like a guest. And they're like, you don't qualify. I was like, okay, fine. But I've asked a lot of cons that, like, can you put me on your guest roster? Because there's very few local people doing what I do. So, why don't you pat me on the back a little bit? I'll still pay for the table. I'll pay like I'm a normal person, but Artist Alley you pay for. And some cons, like I did Planet Comic Con down in Kansas City, which is a huge show. This is the biggest con I've ever been to. And there was about 100,000 people there in one weekend. And that was $300 for the weekend for the table. And then you still have to pay for your hotel, gas, and food. So you just never eat at the con, and you sneak stuff in because it's fucking expensive. But at the meantime, there's a guest table where Scotty Young is 600 feet away from me the whole time. Where he didn't have to pay for that table.
Yeah, they asked Scotty to come.
That if we're going to make that mountain analogy, there's a point to up that mountain where you quit paying to go and they start asking you to be there. And you're
there to get more people to climb that mountain.
Yep. So that'll be a breakthrough, I think, when someone says, please come to the show, you don't have to pay to be here.
Yeah.
We'll put your name on the thing. Then you're like, okay, I'm making it. But yeah, when you have to pay for all the shows, it just gets ridiculous. So I try to go to as many as I can. And my goal is to repeat shows every year. So I have to incorporate the costs of whatever shows I did last year and then add 1 or 2 every year. And I'd rather do it that way as opposed to being like, I'm just going to fill this whole year and go really ridiculously into debt and be on the road every week.
You know what? Now that you're saying this, for me, I was always like, of course they need people. They're gonna ask. They're gonna be like, hey, come out.
Yeah.
But if you have to pay, go out there.
Yeah.
Spend your own dime to go out there. And then
change your life schedule.
Hope
to
people
make
buy
it work.
stuff.
Yeah.
You're right.
You gotta buy prints to sell them, and if nobody buys them, what the fuck is the point of all that fan art in my trunk?
It's hard to climb up that mountain, and you have more weights on you holding you down than Scotty Young, which is like he has balloons with helium and he's going up quick.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and no one asked him to draw anything, but like, can you do Rocket Raccoon or what is her name from I Hate Fairyland? Gert. There we go. I was going to say Gret. I knew it was wrong.
But at one time, Scotty had the weights.
Yeah. So it changes, and I think that's the thing is, if you are a creative person, whether it's painting or sculpture or whatever, the people around you who stop, when you see someone stop, you can see the potential they gave up for that. And if you keep going like one more year, sure, it might not be like 4 times better than last year, but it is better. Yeah. So one of the things I tell people is it's not about like, I don't want to make $10,000 more next year. I just want to make like $1 more next year than I did this year to show that it's growing. It's usually more than $1, but so it's just about knowing that it's happening, and you have to just keep going because a lot of people just stop halfway, because it's hard.
And that's really what it is, right? Is that you keep trying, and it just feels like you said before about your first comic. Was that you stopped Little Alice, and then somebody was like, hey, why'd you stop for?
Yeah.
And you really do know these people to be like, oh, yeah, I can keep going up.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I give any advice to the listeners, if there's somebody out there that you think is really cool, tell them. Like, even if you can't give them $1 every now and then, like my patrons do, like, just tell somebody, like, your shit's cool, don't stop. Because that fuels a lot of stuff.
Hey, same thing for us, too. Like, we see people out in public, they're like, hey, I listened to your show. Or, like, but week after week, we're like, hey, here's how to contact us. And I never hear anything. Oh, yeah. And it's like, I know you're out there. It's just like,
somebody's listening.
It's like, just say, hey, I like your stuff.
The other thing that helps me with this whole like climbing the mountain analogy is you want your work to have a visual language that says you made it. And I think that the big downfall of artist alleys at conventions is you can walk through them, and then when you're done and be like, I saw 8 Batmans that were the same. And I don't know if they were all at the same booth or not. So I feel like I have a very good visual language that, sure, it might not be the best yet. I'm getting better at it. But people know, like, oh, Dylan made that. And that's a good thing. Like, you can pick out a Scotty Young. You can pick out an Alex Ross. And I feel like people who know me can pick out my stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas there are plenty of artists at booths where it's like, that's a great print, but it's the same as that guy down there. Yeah. Like, sure, the posing's different, whatever.
I mean, not
I'll buy the $15 one, not the $20.
Same style. I understand.
It's not like not to put him down, but Scott Williams is looks like Jim Lee. Yeah. And when Jim Lee does books and he needs somebody to do pick up his pages, they get Scott Williams because it looks the same. Right. Yeah. Which might be fine because Scott might love his work and he got inspired by his work. But like you said, maybe try to do something different.
So then the other part that goes along with that is my prints. A lot of people are like, oh man, you need to like this new Batman thing, like do that or do a Superman. I'm like, I don't read that crap. Why would I make a print of somebody that I'm not
a fan of? Yeah.
I'm not even having a relationship with it anymore. And so I did an Earthworm Jim print. They don't sell, but a lot of people stop and they go, holy shit, Earthworm Jim. And I'm like, yeah.
You know what's funny about that? You have a picture on your website. I forgot where I saw it. Yeah. And I was like, or maybe it wasn't at 605. Somewhere I was doing research on it. Yeah. And I saw you were drawing Earthworm Jim, and I was like, holy shit, Earthworm Jim.
Yeah, everyone says that, right? And so I have like a print of the B-52s because I still listen to them. And they were out of date when I was a kid. And I've got like Batman Beyond, which nobody draws him. So let's do that because I think that's cool. And I'm planning things like Darkwing Duck. But there's not a lot of people out there doing the things that they actually care about. They're just shooting for like, oh, this is hot right now. And I think that is a good thing for me and a tough thing. Yeah.
It sounds like to me, Alex is going to want you to draw Project Geeker.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Dude, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, let's do that.
That would be awesome.
So, and then the other thing I've been really getting into is the only hobby I have right now is role playing. So when I do a commission, I don't really want to draw I don't want to draw a Batman for you. Like, give me your D&D character. I'll do that because I'm going to be good at that. Yeah. I'm going to care.
That's what you're into right now.
Yeah,
It inspires you.
Yeah. So
DylanJacobson.com is
DylanJacobson.com.
J. Jacobson.
Because if you don't include that J, you get a little kid's website. And I have emailed them and said I would like to swap. He has the same middle initial as me.
Oh, no.
We could just swap. I'll buy it from you. You never get back to me.
Here's a better one. Patreon.com/Dylan.
Yeah.
You got internet.
Holy crap.
That's easy to find you on there. The Tide That Returns will return in 2019.
That's the plan, at least, yeah.
Champions 1 and 2 available now. You can get prints from your website.
Yeah.
You'll ship it out, right?
Yep.
Or
otherwise, digital's on Comixology. I used to try to do digital myself, but I'll just let them manage it.
if it's on there. If you're in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, it is at some shops you can buy them, right?
Yep, it's at Rainbow Comics, at Last App CD Shop, and Coffee. And then it's available as far west as Portland, Oregon, because I do little book tours. I'll be going to Portland, Maine this summer, so we'll be headed out east, and it's available around the Des Moines and Ames, Iowa areas, in Minneapolis at Hot Comics and Collectibles. I can plug lots of stores.
And at some future cons.
Yeah. The next con for me is a little ways out because I've got a big move coming up this summer, but it's a Chapel Con in Albert Lee. Which was kind of a big show last year. They got the comic book men out there. It was their first year.
Nice.
And I got Mike Zapsik to take a couple copies of my book. So that was cool, right? I think that's why I sold stuff there, because he was walking around with a copy of my book.
This is My Pride of Life. It's available on Webtoon. It's a webcomic.
It's free.
It's free. I was reading some today. It's pretty good. I liked it. Like I said, I like that guy, the way that guy looks. It's very, like I said, even though it kind of looks like Simpsons, I still was like, that's you.
Yeah,
when I read Champions and saw that, I still knew it was you.
Got visual language.
One comic to rule them all. It's an anthology. Dino Boy and Rex. It's Hugh Lamont Hunt and Travis Bentley. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you can control the price, but $5 is not that much.
No,
you want to read their comic there, and you get other stories too. But
there's 25 comics in there.
25 for $5, not a bad deal.
No,
and like Dylan said, his is the best. So. If you want to see
I really think it might be the best one in there. And then I guess I should plug, I'm starting to do online art classes now. It's called the Draw Academy. It's brand new. It's powered through my Patreon, so it's just one pay site. It's $25 a month, but you get a class every week, and it's all ages. So, any skill level works. It's pretty neat. It's going to help me be able to do stuff while I'm on the road even, so it's kind of cool.
And you do other shows too, like you said last night you were in
the Art and Wine Walk. Yeah. Yes.
So good Twitter. Is it Dylan J. Jacobson on there too?
Yeah.
So look at follow him on Twitter and Facebook at facebook.com/ is it?
We'll do the facebook.com/champions comic. That'll be the easiest one to follow the content on there. Yeah.
And he'll tell you where he is. Maybe he'll get back into it, but he also has a podcast, The Good Fight.
I do plan on getting back into it. It's just been since launching the Draw Academy. I'm like, I've got so much crap on my plate.
You know what you should do? I hear some people do it when they're driving.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and you could just record it and put it up there.
Yeah.
Dylan Jacobson, and also might be coming to school near you.
Yeah, probably. Next school year, I haven't got the roster yet. But
who knows? Dylan might be talking to the next Brian Michael Bendis. Yeah. He's going to come out there. By the way,
Superman for me. That's not going to happen. You're going to have him know what he's doing. So, you're going to have your future kids know what they're doing.
WednesdayComics605@gmail.com. Email us and let us know what you're into. Like Dylan said, sometimes it's just starting, and that's how you get over that. Let us know how you keep motivated. Twitter.com/@WednesdayComics. Nope. Twitter.com/WednesdayComics. At Alex Pastrello. At Garot2188. At Marvin_Salguero. And then at Jacob J. Jacobson.
Dylan J. Jacobson.
Dylan, sorry. Yeah. J. Jacobson.
What was
Do you want to hear it one more time?
There is a Champions Twitter. I just don't use it.
I was going to ask that. I think I'm subscribed to both of them, and it's hard.
Just do one.
There's too much social media.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Pastrami's been dead forever.
No one cares.
Speaking of which,
exactly.
Dead.
Speaking of which, Facebook.com/Wednesday Comics Podcast, on Instagram at Wednesday Comics Podcast, and on YouTube at Wednesday Comics. You can leave us a voicemail. Let us know what you're thinking. 605-215-1849. We have a book club, right, Garrett?
Wednesday Comics League of Extraordinary Gentle People proudly presents
Saga of the Swamp Thing. That is by Alan Moore. Speaking of Alan Moore, that is once a quarter we read a book, and we do a big show about a book to get really in depth with it. That'll be coming up here in July with John Boylan from rootsoftheswampthing.com. Speaking of which, rootsoftheswampthing.com sponsoring the show. Go ahead and go to John Boylan's website or follow him on Twitter at DC World Swampy or on Facebook.com/rootsoftheswampthing. Speaking of Siouxpercon, Return of the Con 2018, September 28th, 29th, and 30th. We'll be there the 28th doing a live show. You going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there.
All right,
I'll probably be doing a panel. They ask me to every year, and I don't know what I'm talking about. So
I actually was going to talk to you about it. We'll talk about that after this. So we'll see you at Siouxpercon. You can see us there. We'll be there all 3 days, but that 28th, that's when we're doing that show. Speaking of just taking the leap, that was something that these two are really into, and I was like, I don't know if I want to kind of do that. And I was just like, yeah, let's do it, and I'll figure it out.
You know, we were like, suck it up, we're doing it.
Subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, or Spotify, so you can get it right away when it comes out. You don't have to wait. Go to patreon.com/Dylan.
Yeah.
Make sure you subscribe to him also, and you can get his content right away. Like he said, it's not only to get the stuff early, it's to get extra stuff that you can't
and you
find
get
anywhere
credit
else.
in the comics. So there's like a movie credits page.
Oh, yeah, I saw
You
that.
get your name on that thing. It's pretty sweet.
Get that. You can get an email from Danny, right?
Yeah.
And he might email you. You don't
Oh,
know.
no, from Muggy. Sorry.
Oh, Muggy, sorry.
Danny doesn't have as many deep feelings.
He doesn't access Gmail.
Yeah.
One day, maybe. Well, thank you, Dylan, for coming
thank
in.
you.
Coming on.
Absolutely.
Good show. We learned a lot about Dylan today, and we learned a lot about just keep going. If you're going to go up that mountain, make sure that you hit the peak. You know what the thing is, too? Let me just end with this.
Yeah.
Because we were using this mountain analogy for all your things. Sometimes, really, it is not about figuring out how can I get up to the top of the mountain. It's kind of figuring out how can I get up where I am right now, right?
Well, if we're going to end on advice, if you haven't watched Kimmy Schmidt, I'm sorry for the spoiler, but you can handle anything for 10 seconds. So, like, how can I just get 10 seconds further? Just do
That's a
it
good
that
one.
way.
And if you're a fan of Will Smith, he said an analogy once that really made sense to me. And actually, nobody looks at a wall and looks to build a wall and says, "How can I do this in one move?" They put a brick down, they put the next brick down,
Yeah, absolutely.
and eventually it's a wall. They don't just do it all at once.
I was thinking Miley Cyrus, The Climb.
I have no pop culture reference.
For Wednesday Comics, I've been Marvin.
I'm Alex.
I'm Garrett.
I guess I was Dylan.
Hey, everyone. Keep turning those pages.